And welcome back to ScavTalk, everyone. Today's episode, we'll be discussing the Tarkov TwitchCon Arena event. A big tournament with some of the Tarkov streamers in the category competing against each other. It's kind of a showcase, kind of an event. Pretty cool stuff. Followed by that, we're going to be talking about some React content, Reaction Inception, as I like to call it. And then we're going to jump back to Tarkov with some M995 stuff with the late game, followed by investigating the dark arts of RMT. And then we'll round off with some miscellaneous gaming topics. So, yeah, how's your week been, Giga? I say what you've been up to, but I've seen a little bit of it.
Oh my God, you've seen a little bit. This week has been uneventful and painful on the Tarkov side. I didn't do my stream on Tuesday because I had to go to toddler nursery parents' evening, which was very funny. But on Monday, we basically did part of... So what I'm working towards, like just taking a step back, what I'm working towards broadly is Lightkeeper. And to get Lightkeeper, you need to do certain missions. I've done pretty much all the missions that you need to do, except for Peacekeeping mission, which is the reason why I had to do Lend-Lease again and find the damn Vertexes and those 2 FDM radios. So I've done that. Got to Peacekeeping mission, but my only issue with it is that it's just a bit boring. Like Peacekeeping mission is one of those things where I feel that I might just put some time in outside of the stream or whatever. Like it's fine, but like one of the raids that, we had that crazy streets raid. I was wearing the blueberry stuff, but like I got no scav kills at all, ended up killing a load of PMCs, and that raid was great, but I didn't get any progress towards Peacekeeping at all. And it's like, well, I'd probably rather just not actually have the blue on. And playing in a way that avoids PMCs is just not really very interesting. So I think I'd probably rather do that in a more time efficient way rather than doing it on stream. Because Monday it was fine, but I had some fights with people, but you're just always at a disadvantage when you fight PMCs. It's just kind of painful. So Tuesday was it was skipped, and then Thursday I was like, well, the other side of the quest that we've got to do to get to the Lightkeeper pathline is Tarkov Shooter Part 7. Now, I don't like bolties. This is no secret, and I have been slacking very, very hard on the whole bolt action stuff. And my sniper level is level 1. So you do start off at level 0, so I have gone up like 1 level. I mean, you needed 10 skill points for that, but I've gone up 1 level just doing like Tarkov Shooter 1 to 3, I think, early on in the wipe, just for some XP, because it's not that hard, and you can kind of just chill and do it. It's not too bad. But I always get stuck on Tarkov Shooter Part 4 because you need to get to level 3 sniper, 4 sniper. I can't remember. Level 3 sniper. I can't actually remember which one it is. I'm sure it's level. I actually have to look it up now because it's level 3. Yeah, it's level 3 sniper. And being level 1 sniper, it's quite a long way, and you should in theory like slowly build it up over time and like bring a Mosin in and reload it at the start of raid and throw it in a bush. But it's just like I just haven't been bothered to min-max that and couldn't be asked. So I've done all the other quests. Peacekeeping mission's not going to be that difficult. You just grind away at it and it eventually gets done because it's just scav kills ultimately. But then, to get Tarkov Shooter Part 7, I have to do this. So I was like, well, I guess we could try the new Shooterborn as well, because if we're taking a bolty, we may as well combine it with Shooterborn in Heaven, which I haven't done either.
Sure.
So, and I've got like some random quests on Shoreline to like plant markers and stuff like Wet Job or whatever, like miscellaneous things that I just haven't bothered with because I've tended to hyper focus on like maximizing XP to get to level 42 rather than like only questing at the expense of everything else, because I'm not like dead set on getting cap or anything. So anyway, we tried it yesterday. We did not get a single... I actually don't even know if we got a single kill with bolt actions, which was extremely painful. Definitely didn't get any headshots at all. The best raid was one where we had like 2 people pinned down, or 3. There was like a team fighting down in pier. Took some shots at one guy, he disappeared. The guy ran up the beach, took some shots at him, but just like whiffed everything and got killed. And then there was a guy who was like a relatively clear shot, but he was running, so it's like really hard to actually. I was like, I always like take my shot too early, so I like waited and waited and waited and waited and waited. There was no real opportunity where he stood still or anything, so I actually ended up having to let him go. Like I was looking from was I was on the little overlook over power station, but on the like the tunnel side of the map, let's say.
Okay, yeah.
So on the overlook, there's like the little road in front of you. To the left is power station. In front of that is the gas station. So he was like running right to left and going towards power, and I was like, well, I just can't really catch him. But then in the corner of my eye, there's like a team of 2 who were actually like trying to sniper. I think they had little like interaction, but no one killed each other. That's what I heard and brought me over to that location in the first place. There's this team of 2 over on the right over by Spine, and they're actually trying to get some snipes off. So they're like kind of like moving, like, aiming and stuff. And I'm like, oh,
Snipes
these
off
guys
at
are
you, or snipes off on the guy running?
on the guy running. So they had a
Okay.
little fight first. So none of them knew where I was. So this team of two, because they're not like just sprinting through the open, like this first guy was like questing or something. So he was like not staying still. He wasn't looking for people. He was just trying to be hard to hit. So I had to kind of leave him. The other guys were like scoping in and like searching for dudes, which is actually easier to get a headshot on those people if they don't know where you are, obviously, because they're like, you're slow when you're ADSing. Even if you're moving, you're like much slower when you're strafing around. And I had, I think on that one I actually had an M700. Like we started with VPO with APM, which is fine, but we upgraded to the M700 for like faster bullet velocity and just like better zeroing and stuff, just to try it because it's like nice and light and it's a fun build. Anyway, tried to take a shot at one of those guys, just like couldn't make it connect. As I'm like fighting with them, I like take off like 1 or 2 shots maybe at those dudes. Then there's a sound to my right, like really close. It's like somebody super, super close to me. I'm just like, oh crap. So I like get up, throw a grenade over that way, run with my like USP pistol sort of towards the wall area. Who do we meet? The very first dude who was like going alongside the power station edge. And I was like, oh god. So I had like this USP and like tried to USP the guy, but I just got shot and killed. And I was just like, man, what? Like we don't see anybody for like 4 raids in a good plot in a good space. And then like in one session, we've got like this guy running in and flanking us here.
Right.
These 2 guys sniping over on here. A guy right next to me just so happens to like, I don't know, maybe he's part of the squad of the 2 sniping on the ridge. Who knows? But I was like, oh, it's just like so unfortunate. So I just dying there again. I was like, this is so bad. I think I just like put my head on the desk. I was like, I hate this quest, man. Like this is so awful. And it's one of those things where I'm just like, do I even want to bother with Shooter Born in Heaven still? Because like I haven't bothered with it for ages. Like since I first got Kappa, which was the one time that I got Kappa like 2 years ago. Like actually more than that, 3 years ago. Do I even want to bother doing this quest?
Mm-hmm.
Like I have limited time on stream. Am I going to spend the next month doing this? No. Like I thought maybe it would be a bit easier. Like I think I got to change tactics slightly. Like I can just lower my survival rate, and rather than going with scopes, I can just go in with red dots and just try to like point blank people. That's an alternative. So maybe we try that again at some point. But I just like it's such a disadvantage with bolties. Like I'm not used to playing with them either. So there's a learning curve to jump over to get there. Try to be good with them, and it's just hard, man. It's just really hard.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like for the time being, unless we get bored and run out of stuff to do, I feel like I'm just gonna reload a Mosin to level 4, skip over it.
Classic.
Because there's just like not really any need. Like people were pointing out to me, actually, it's like kind of easier now to do the stuff that you need to do because you could just pay for mentors. So if you do, if I do one more wet job quest line, because I stopped doing those like boring quests because there's nothing really that you get unlocked from them. If I do that, I can get a mentor and I can just pay for 3 sniper levels. Not as important anymore because of the way the tiering works. If you do want to go for Kappa, you need to get to level 10 sniper, but Shooter Born gives you 5 and Shooter 8 gives you 3. So there's plenty of sniper levels to go around, and Mentor gives you 3 as well. So like you can technically do it whenever. The only issue is that Tarkov Shooter 6, I think, requires you to be level 7 sniper, so it kind of like bottlenecks you a little bit. Like, and am I going to complete Tarkov Shooter 6, or am I going to get Shooter Born in Heaven done before I reach Tarkov Shooter 6? Like, no, there's no way. So it's a bit of a bottleneck. So I'm like, well,
I see. Maybe
I do need to get to Sniper 4 like naturally. So then I can pay for Mentor to get to level 7. To then just bypass that mechanic and not have to do the Shooter Born. Because obviously I can't do Shooter 8 because I haven't done Shooter 6 because I need Sniper level 7. So it's all a bit of a like, So I think I'm just going to have to get to level 4 to make it work and be sensible. Because all I need to do to get Lightkeeper is get Tarkov Shooter 7 done, which isn't actually all that hard necessarily. And Peacekeeping Mission. Those are the only 2 I have left. And then I'll have Network Provider. I already have the CFDM radios. And I think all the other items. So I can just like whip through that one. That was by far the hardest one, along with Assessment, just because it takes a bit of time. You have to kill people in Lighthouse. And that just takes a bit of time. But that's like PvP quest. That's not too bad. That's okay. But yeah, dude, honestly, it's just like so brutal. I'm not a bolt action guy. And trying to go from a standing start on that, it's so hard. It's so hard.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my buddy who's very religious about the old Mosin loading meta. I mean, that's just like the way the mid max. If you don't want to like actively do the actually shooting the gun using how it's supposed to. But yeah, it's just like Mosin every raid. Classic shoreline interchange. Customs, whatever. But like those 2 maps in particular, because you pop the SJ. The best thing about it is that you can sprint while reloading, while gaining points. So like you're already gonna be sprinting for a long way, so you might as well be like loading the motion. But I mean, speak a little bit to the choir because preaching to the choir because I don't really. That's not the right saying, but the point is, I really don't do that anymore. Even though it's a good thing if you like really care about it. It's a good thing to do, but it does get very stale very quickly because it's so it's not really fun, engaging gameplay compared to like actually shooting and using the gun. Like I really wish I know we said this before, but I really wish that they would. Maybe they will because I've heard them mention skill rework and the next the patch, the Tarkov patch of all patches. 5 million feature list. That maybe they will put in a system where you get headshots. It gives you more points. Like 5 flat points or something. I mean, that's probably too much. But it's something where it's like, because literally it's like, if you're gonna actually shoot them, it's best to shoot them in the leg to gain points, and then the better strategy to beat that is just reload the Mosin. So it's like I don't know. It's not great.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, honestly. I think it's like Shooterborn in Heaven. It's a quest. It's fine. People like to do it. It's like it's a thing. I get it. It's like it just is so time consuming. I think that's the issue. Like maybe I'll be better with the red dot thing because I've always quite enjoyed Tarkov Shooter 3, but that's on Factory. It's a different ball game.
Yeah,
it's just there's so many more like players doing that kind of stuff there, but. Yeah, I'm not sure. But the problem I find is, unless you're just going to like reload the Mosin over and over when you get into raid, even early wipe, I know like the Chad like meta, I'm going to get Kappa in like 10 days kind of situation. They're like, oh, you just use the Mosin from level 1 until level 20 or something, and I'm just like, that's all well and good, but like anytime I get into a fight with the Mosin, like I just die. So every time I'm going to like completely like gut my early game for the sake of like sniper skill points. And you actually have to get hits with them too, right? You have to kill scouts with it and stuff. Like it's just I find them hard to use in general. And so it's like, what's the cost on my survival rate and not actually getting things done because I'm trying to use a Mosin to finish this like one quest line that like I may or may not even care about actually. So I like understand why people do it, but yeah, it's hard to motivate yourself to want to go do that. But the thing is like, if we don't end up doing that, is a good question. Somebody actually wrote, what do you do once you reach level 42? And I think it's a good point, but we kind of talked about this a little bit before. Like I've still got a few things that I want to finish. I went and did some labs and got the GPSA, so I've got Intel 3, but I didn't find the MCC. We had like very low extract rate on labs, to be fair. I mean, on all the times when I actually found an item, I managed to leave, which is good. And so I think that's kind of like a playstyle thing. It's like if you haven't found anything, you're kind of incentivized just to like rush around like an idiot trying to find the stuff and like going to the hotspots to grab the good items, So like I found a Ledex on one of them and took that out of raid, got that out, and found the GPSA and took that out of raid. But then all the other raids where I didn't really find much, I ended up most of the time just getting killed because I was just like, well, we may as well push it because like it's only cash, right? Like what have I got on me? Just guns and things. I can get more money. I could always come back to labs and do more stuff, but I could only look at those hotspots.
Right.
When I'm in raid, and I may as well just go. And if we die in PvP, then like so be it. But then outside of that, like I still personally have to go and kill Kaban to go and finish Gunsmith. I want to get to level 45 to get BP. Like Shooterborn is like a task. If you want to get M61, then you have to do Shooterborn. So that's like if you want to do that, then you could do that if you want to. So there's like a few other things you could do, and Lightkeeper obviously. There's like other stuff you can do. Like I was arguing on my stream about like how there was an advantage going for Lightkeeper, and people were like, well, what was the point doing Lightkeeper last wipe? And I was like, well, it made the end of wipe event a lot easier because you had to do 2 makeup quests. If you didn't bother getting him, you had to do like 2 watered down versions of the kind of network provider like path to Lightkeeper thing. You still had to find some irritating items. I can't remember what it was, but it was like CFDM raid, like 1 CFDM and like a vertex or something. It was something annoying. There was like 2 quests you had to do, but if you'd already got Lightkeeper, you didn't have to do it. And if I'd had to do those first 2 quests, I don't know whether I'd have completed it in the time limit, So I'm like, well, BSG obviously think Lightkeeper is important. We know BSG don't really think Kappa is important. So I don't like having Kappa. I don't think will ever be. I mean, if it is, and rip me, I guess. But like, right. I don't think having Kappa will ever be like an end of wipe event requirement. Whereas like Lightkeeper clearly can be because he's part of like the law or whatever. Like Nikita's always said that Kappa was just put in there as a stupid thing to let people grind for something towards the end, right? So I still do want to get to the Lightkeeper for that purpose, depending on what happens at the end. Like, yeah, even if it's 2 lines of stash or something, like it's nice to be involved in that. Like if you don't have it and then you're like really blocked because you can't do it, you're like, well, I just can't really participate. It just feels kind of bad. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do exactly yet with it, but I think I'm just going to focus on the motion reloading thing and then just get on with the Tarkov shooter quest line, like min-max it to get to 7 and then try to do Lightkeeper, and then we'll all come back and think about it another time later when we've got nothing else better to do. After maybe we'll do Caban first and get to level 45 first and all of that stuff, and then maybe we'll start using bolties or whatever. Because like since I started doing these annoying quests, dude, like I've been level 42 and then I just haven't leveled up. I'm just level 42 permanently now because like I'm not doing the other quests to actually get in the XP, and it's quite a lot to go from 42 to 43 to 44. Like it's a lot of XP. So if you're dying a bunch, you kill like 2 scavs and then die. It's like how much XP do you get? Like 1,500. That's a lot of raids. If you're not actually questing. So anyway, there is exciting Tarkov news, like you alluded to in the intro, which is the Battlestate Games' first ever Tarkov Arena tournament, which I think is actually a really cool way to showcase it. So far, we've only seen arena gameplay from, I guess, devs. And some people have been able to play it, but there wasn't any footage. So he's near Glorious, and a few people played it. And then I think it was in Japan as well, but there was no footage. So this time at TwitchCon in Vegas, it's going to be the very first time that we're going to see people who basically play at the top level of the game and their take on how this works. And what's interesting, I guess it's like a slice through of the people going to Vegas because only a certain section of the community can actually go. There's quite a large diversity of players playing, which I actually think is really cool, honestly. So there's 4 teams, and it's got Willers, Gingy, Clean, Sheaf, and Stankrat on one team. So that's like the full play styles, right? That's like Shift W Chad, like realism guy. You've got the rat. You've got movement hero. You've got loot queen, and then you've got baddie JV Bay. It's Reefy, Fudge, and Tweak. Another team, Landmark, Miss Dunks, Avni Dude, who we love Avni, Tay and M3D, and then Gino, Arson, Ash, Genticles, and Hutch. So it's going to be fun. There's like a whole range of people, like people who like main Tarkov, who don't main Tarkov, who are like more casual, who play in different ways. I think that's actually really good. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, obviously, Landmark and like Willers and those guys are just going to like absolutely annihilate everybody. But it's going to be cool to see what everybody's takes are on it. Yeah, and it's not all Shift W Chads, and so the couple of people who are, it's not like there's like 3 guys who play like normally, and everyone else who's just completely cracked out their minds, so they're just going to get dunked on the whole time. There's like a couple of guys who are like extremely good, and then a whole bunch of different play styles. So it's going to be it'll be pretty funny. That's happening tomorrow. For those listening, it's actually Saturday or Sunday, so I guess the YouTube vids will be out by the time that this has come through, which is going to be fun. I'm actually quite sad. Like I was trying to make it work so that I could go to TwitchCon. I was like really, really thinking about it. I was actually talking to like Friendly Guy, and because he's going, and I was like, he like had some accommodation and stuff, and I was like, if it wasn't this weekend, like I think I might be able to make it work. But I've got we're going to a special show thing for my 2 kids' kind of like birthday, and then we've got their joint party like on the Sunday. And I was like, like the Saturday thing, I was like, it's not necessary. So I was like looking like, could I go Thursday, like fly back Saturday night, like make it for the party on Sunday? And I was like, you know what? Yeah. If I'm just gonna make both things crap. If I try and do this, I'm not gonna want to leave. I'm gonna leave like in the middle of like it all getting started, really, on the TwitchCon side, and then I'm gonna miss a load of stuff here at home, which is like quite important, really. And I'd really like to go to and just be tired and then just not really enjoy it on Sunday. So I'm like, whatever. Maybe I'll go next year. Hopefully it comes at a better time. But it doesn't help that it's in Vegas as well, which for me is like it's quite a way.
Yeah.
It's the wrong side of the state, so that's a long old flight. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see what comes out. I'm actually just talking about this. Like I just remembered. I mean, it's not like a piece of news in particular. Have you seen Nice Guys putting out some daily tweet videos on Twitter? You should go and see, because it's basically his like official / unofficial. He just put it there. He was like, well, I'm not going to wear the balaclava the whole time. I've got the contacts and all this stuff, but like I'm not going to wear it the whole time because like that's completely insane. So here's my face. Hello everyone. And it was just like, oh my god, Nice Guy face reveal on Twitter. So if you want to go and see what Nice Guy looks like, you can look on his Twitter. He's going to be doing daily updates with him talking about what's been going on and stuff. So I thought that was quite fun. was like, oh, we only seen him dressed as a clown, which was sort of like not. That wasn't quite.
I don't know if I remember if I even remember that.
What, him dressed as
Did
a
he
clown?
actually have full makeup on? I can't remember.
Yeah. So like he showed
Man.
him like normal, but you couldn't really see, right? Because it was like a full clown face thing going
it's
on.
funny.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that I was kind of like, because I just clicked on it and then I was like, oh, hello. Just like impromptu face reveal, like out of literally nowhere. But that's cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, Arena, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, pretty neat. I will be curious to see. So I'm actually, you know, what's funny? I was laughing earlier because you mentioned how he did, and I thought, you know, oh my god, is he gonna dress up in trash bags and hide in trash bags? If there's no trash bags, that team stands no chance. Because he has this video where he's like hiding in the trash, and it works.
I haven't actually seen it yet.
I don't know if it's a video. I think I saw a short, like a stream. Maybe he's making to a video, but it was so good.
Is a video. I've not seen it,
dude.
Though.
He killed like 9 different players and there was just piles of bodies around him, but he's just hiding in the trash. It's so funny, dude. It's so funny. Yeah, it's actually really, really good. It looks like it'd be really good content. But yeah, jumping back to the lineup here, as you said, it's pretty good range, I would say, representation. I do think Willard's team is maybe a bit stacked. Like, I don't know everyone, but from the people that I do know, Willard's team is probably also I really like Willard's. Like, I like his like he's a very skilled player, but he's also like very laxed, you know, laid back about it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, he's pretty chill as far as like big guys go. Yeah. Like Willard's Gingy, clean sheaf stank, right? It's like quite.
Yeah, like sheaf's really good, Gingy's really good. Clean, I think, is really good. Stink Rat, don't really know, but I know he's got the rat spots, so you know, give him some time. After a couple of rounds, he'll have a few rat spots, I'm sure.
But
yeah, I mean,
make a spreadsheet.
Yeah, he'll already have like a work in progress spreadsheet, preliminary results spreadsheets. So yeah, I'm that, you know, I'm looking forward to watching Willard's play. Hopefully, I don't know. I guess they won't be. It'll probably be just Arena, like Battlestate Games streaming. I don't know if any players will be streaming.
Yeah, I think it's just BSG.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know who's kind of like. I don't actually know who's hosting it, and who's kind of casting on their channel. I don't actually know.
Probably some Battlestate guys. I think Nice Guy mentioned that he had like thought about it, but decided against it or something. I
asked him, and he said no because he doesn't really like going live in front of an audience. Like, it is very different though, like doing YouTube stuff, because you can do it as many takes as you like. Like even the thing that he put on Twitter, he was like, "This is like take number 4 because I need to keep this kind of short." But live, you can't really do that. It's hard.
Yeah, you know, that's the best part about live. You just, you know, never know what's going to happen.
I'm like desperately trying to find Nice Guy dressed up as a clown on Twitter in the background. It was like a long time ago.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
like I vaguely remember it, but I don't know if I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was when they did the whole nuke thing.
Yeah, I mean,
wasn't it like
well, no, I think it was the wipe. It was like 12-12 or one of the wipes. He was like, if it doesn't happen here, and it like didn't happen, and he was like, I'll wear a clown makeup or whatever. But I don't actually remember him.
I thought that was it. I thought it was like, oh, we think it's the nuke, and if the wipe doesn't happen with the nuke or whatever, then like, then it's
maybe it was the nuke. I can't remember.
I feel like it was, but I'm gonna have to try and find it. I really am.
Feels like it was some time ago, like a year.
It was,
yeah, plus maybe.
Exactly. I thought it might be like December 22, but I don't know. I can't find it now, so I'm not sure. Hashtag clown guy. It was good. So yeah, I'm excited to see it. I mean, I just kind of want to play it now. You know, as we said, like lots of people have real mixed opinions on Arena. I think it's going to be great for a warm up. I'm looking forward to be able to play it at the start, the end of the stream, to get in and out of just fighting and stuff. You just get like more experience playing without having to do Shift W in the actual game, because that's all well and good. And I do appreciate why it's so hard to get better at Tarkov in many ways for Shift W style gameplay. And I'm not the best at it either, really, because when you're doing other things in the game, you're not really incentivized to go and do that most of the time, unless you're actually doing a PvP quest. And half the time, it's better not to do that if you want to get PvP kills, because you can stand still or listen or be more careful. And that is not conducive with building your skills. And it's because you don't want to run in, die to somebody sitting still, and then have to load back into the map for like 5 minutes, gearing up. It sucks. So it'll be great to just cycle through like Scav Factory, like it used to be pre-Karma, and you just go in full Thunderdome and boom, boom. One thing I didn't think about is how, like, are there any team marks and stuff? I'm not even sure. Is there like team damage in Arena? I assume there is.
Yeah.
But
as far as I'm aware. And I mean, you have like, basically they took the armbands and like expanded that a bit. So there's like multiple armbands, like one on your left arm, one on your right arm, one on your knee, one on your head, maybe. I don't know. But there's like a lot of like color identification.
Yeah.
For your team.
Yeah, maybe it will be okay. I forgot about that with the armbands. But that's the only thing that kind of scares me a bit, because chronically solo Tarkov players is just like suddenly have to play with other people and you can't just shoot on sight. Like, oh no. If there's no HUD or anything, then it's going to be kind of confusing. So we'll see. We'll see. But yes, I'm excited. When's it actually starting? So this thing is starting 12 p.m. Pacific time, which is what? What's Pacific for you? Is it 4 hours difference between?
3. So it'd be
3. Oh yeah.
3.
So yours is 3 p.m. and for me it's like 8.
Right. Yes.
8 p.m. BST. Yeah. Interesting. Well, I'm out all of Saturday, but if it's 8 p.m, that's actually pretty good. It means I might be able to watch it in the evening. Kind of neat.
Yeah, I wonder how the tournament's can actually. Is it going to be elimination style, double elimination, round robin? Kind of curious about the format, but
actually, there was a tweet that I saw from Hayes, kind of about this, and he said BSG must feel very good about. I don't know where you got this information from, but he said BSG must feel very good about Tarkov Arena to be showcasing it on a grand stage at TwitchCon. It seems like they'll only be playing one game mode, Team Fight. Only 4 out of the 7 maps are apparently ready to be played. The Bowl, the Box, and Resort are probably still in development. Keep in mind the gameplay might look messy because players haven't played before. So I think it's a Team Fight one, which he screenshotted. So 2 teams of 5 players fight for victory in 7 rounds. Capturing objective points after the timer expires will also lead to victory. So it's kind of interesting. It's like objective based and also kill based. So we'll have to see.
That's kind of interesting because it's kind of like Counter-Strike in that way. Where like technically one winning condition is eliminating our team. I mean, for CTs, it's for terrorists, that's not quite true. You gotta like plant the bomb, I think.
Yeah, and then die, and then they have to defuse it. But if they don't get there in time, even if you're all dead, you can still win.
As a CT, yeah.
Or I meant as a T. So if you plant the bomb as T, and then you die, but then they don't defuse it in time, you can still win, I think.
Yeah. But you could also like eliminate the CTs and not get any points. Whereas it's the CTs can eliminate the terrorists, and win and get a round win. Like as the T's, you still gotta like do the objective. But anyways, getting off topic here. At least I think that's how it works. But yeah, I'm also like looking forward to seeing the the post copium. if there is such a thing, I mean, I'm not gonna like be the guy that said I'm right. So I'm only gonna do that like 50 times and then I'll stop. No, I'm kidding. I'm curious to see what their feedbacks were, because I think I heard that Glorious had like some stuff to say about it, but I didn't look into it. So I don't really
the only
remember.
thing that I remember, because I watched half of his thing, I remember him basically saying like he thought it was good and he liked it.
Okay.
But he said that the way the loadouts were set up was kind of weird. Not necessarily that it was good or bad, I don't think, if I remember correctly, but he said that the loadouts were like all high tier armor and all low tier ammo. So like meta and high tier armor and weapons, but the ammo was like really bad. Which is sort of interesting because a lot of people have been like, well, increases the time to kill and
Right.
makes headshots more valuable.
I mean, this is kind of the thing I would like, because then your armor actually does something in that
Yeah.
scenario, which is like much more preferable than being like, why am I even wearing armor? The one thing I did see in I think it was one of the footage, is like they had a SIG, an MCX kit, and in the rig it had like 3 40 rounders with like AP or some like good ammo in it.
Yeah.
But then in the backpack it had 2 drum mags, but they were filled with like some flesh round. I don't even know what it is, like VMAX maybe. So it's kind of an interesting, like I kind of see what they're going for, but I don't know if the extra 20 rounds is ever worth it to do it. But I mean, maybe there's something there, because then there's also this weird kind of like pivot point where, let's say like all the kits on average, their armor class is like 5 and above, right? Then you got the ammo. Let's say on average the ammo is like class 3 and above, right? So then it's like, really like makes it hard to like shoot them in the armor. So then there becomes like this head meta or like leg meta. But then like that means that the guns that do have flesh rounds are like really good in that scenario, because like you just shoot them in the head, it does the same damage as if you shot them with the armor piercing round that can only pierce class 3, but everything's wearing class 5. You know what I mean? So there is kind of like this weird thing going on. So I don't know. It'd be curious to see what all the details, but I'm just looking forward to seeing all the feedback, everyone, because it's like a big group, and like I know like there is some like some different EU people, but who cares about EU? No, this is America, damn it. This is America. All right.
I did see one random post. I think it was One Peg, I think, talking about TwitchCon, saying that apparently Nikita may well be DJing the partner party.
There's also like
really quite funny if that's true.
Battlestate Games is presenting the purple carpet, which this is like Twitch speak. I don't know what any of that is. I guess it's like the red carpet equivalent, but like, dude, VSG's like really involved in a lot of stuff going on here.
That's the thing. I mean, to be fair, it makes sense because they've kind of the game. They did a big marketing push with drops and all that stuff, like back when the game exploded. And ever since then, they've done drops, whatever. They haven't needed to go like crazy because the game's kind of like taken off on its own. But now they're releasing Arena. It makes sense for them to step it back up again. So they want to be like sponsoring stuff, like get people in, because they're trying to draw in this wide crowd now, right? It's not just for the Tarkov audience. This is for more than that, and this is kind of make or break for Arena, like how well it's received right off the bat. So it's going to be very important that they get it right. Basically, where's Church gone? Hello, you disappeared.
Nope. What am I talking about?
No, I was just saying that this is important for them, to get it right, to get the feedback, make Arena good, do the marketing, get enough people in, and for them to want to play it. That's the thing. And so this is the marketing side. Having the streamers play it is a good thing, and having the community see it. It's actually interesting having the community, before we've even like tested it as EOD, having the top guys play and having the community just like watch. That's interesting on its own. Those guys will have their takes, then the community will have their takes based on what they saw and what the guys say. And it's almost like the most sort of like hands-off like pre-test that you could do in some ways. Just kind of cool without like having to roll out to everyone. And then we'll test it and whatever. But like, it's a big event for Tarkov and for Battlestate. So I'm not surprised with them trying to drum up the interest by sponsoring things and being at the headline and the front of stuff. They want to bring in the bigger crowd as they can.
So, just one quick thing is I did recently look up Google Trends for Escape from Tarkov, and which just kind of shows like interest from like Google side over time and peaks and whatnot. And look at the history, like it's grown a lot. And but the thing I want to get to is this patch was like a pretty significant decrease in interest. I mean, for obvious reasons, right? Like all the Tarkov people were kind of like already feeling that from the patch notes, so it makes sense. But I'd be curious to see with like Arena, because I was even like expecting to see some uptick from like Arena stuff, but it does like the Google Trends and shit. But that could be because I'm specifically searching Escape from Tarkov, not like Tarkov Arena. You know, maybe if you look up that term, it'll see much difference. I don't know. I mean, I would think like Escape from Tarkov would kind of encapsulate a little bit of Arena stuff, but anyways, nonetheless, I guess my point is this is probably like the one big marketing event, like the first big one, you could say.
Yeah.
So I imagine we'll get a lot of or for Battlestate games anyways, they'll get a lot of traction off this.
Yeah, Tarkov Arena is interesting. It had because I just pulled trends up now because you mentioned it.
Oh yeah,
it had its biggest spike on like August the 20th, but I presume that was when they announced it. I guess, and then since then it's sort of trended. Obviously, it's like come off a lot, but it's just the interest is just like higher than it was. I mean, it's easy to look at the chart and sort of dismiss it. There's like a couple of spikes, I guess, when they've like mentioned it previously. It was like June the 5th, 2022. And then December the 25th, 2022, which is like 2 patches, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then August the 20th, which I think was when they like properly announced it relatively recently. But before then, the usual interest on, because Google's like a relative one, it goes from 1 to 100. Like prior to it even existing, obviously there's nothing there. Afterwards, it's like 5-ish. Kind of depends, but it's usually about 5-ish. And then in the run up to this patch, it went sort of up to like, 10, 9, 10, that sort of thing. And now it sort of runs at about 14, 12, whatever. So like the interest is 3 times higher than when it was first announced. It's twice higher than the previous patch. So like it's, I don't know, like people are interested in it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think it's just still in its like infantile stage.
Yeah.
Because like technically it has a long history, but like don't really count that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like this is the first real. I don't know. In my opinion, this is like the first real marketing. Definitely, the other stuff was like maybe. Okay, the other stuff was leading up to the first real one. It was all one big real plan. You see, I mean, over here on my whiteboard, you can see I got the
conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
No, we'll see. It is interesting. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Like everyone in the Tarkov community knows it's coming, so it's really getting interest from outside of the Tarkov player base. People who just don't really think about it day to day, and then it's like, oh, look at this is cool. Actually, maybe I'll come and play this thing. Or like, oh, I bought EOD in the past because like I think Tarkov's got there's a big sort of player base who've played and just moved on, who will probably come back to check out Arena if they're intrigued or interested. And a lot of people end up buying EOD. I mean, there's probably I don't know how many copies they've sold, but if you just sort of like try to average through like number of total players or whatever, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's something like 1.5 million or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if you just look at like different subscriber counts, like Pessie and Landmark are like in the high hundreds of thousands, and like BSG themselves, like some of the viewership on some of the videos, like over the years that it's been around, there's lots of people who've come in and out. So that bulk of player base that might come back could be a big wave of people who like don't come back for the normal patches, but they might come back for Arena. So it makes sense to try and make sure everybody knows that it's coming.
Yep.
So yeah. Yep. So yeah, look forward to that this weekend. What should we talk about next?
What
is the next easiest sort of like most natural topic? I think everything else is kind of a step change from this. So
yeah. I could talk about So I watched Tigz's React video. I think it came up on my feed. Or no, I think I searched it out actually. And
this is the React video to my video, yeah?
Yes. I should clarify that. And I took a lot of notes, but I don't think I want to go through all of them. But it's overall, for stars, I guess. I think it's pretty cool that Tigz watched your video and like had a reaction to it. Because you don't really see a lot of that stuff in Tarkov. Maybe for good reason. It's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, right?
I also don't think that many people put out videos like that
That's
anymore,
definitely true.
really. You have like Veritas is one that he did, like Jesse does them sometimes, but there's not that many of them that are done in that way. Like sometimes people put out sort of like rant type videos, whatever, about like this and that. But I think partly because it's so structured, it kind of makes it easier to sort of like break down and critique and like, because the points are very clearly laid out, because that's kind of how I wanted to do it. So maybe that's the reason.
Yeah, it's also just really cool that that content in general is doing well. You know what I mean? Like your video did really well, which is really cool, I think. Like it's kind of funny because I really like this type of content, but it's like not all that popular. I mean, it's hard to do, I guess. It's one thing, right? It's hard to do well. Anyone can talk out their ass. I mean, I do it all the time. What do you think we do here? But
yeah, and it's hard to do well, like repeatedly as well.
Yeah,
like it's kind of like one-offs, right? Like, I didn't even realize, because when we checked last time, like when I'd done it, it was like 70k. It's like over 100,000 now.
Yeah,
that's amazing. The best video I've made for ages.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of potential there, but I think it's a lot of work at the same time. But anyways, so I'll just like gloss over a few of my notes. So one of the things he mentions at the start was that devs hyper focus on cheaters, and I absolutely agree with this. I mean, there's good reason for it, I guess you could say. But like the key, you can't drop keys anymore. I was like, dude, I don't know. But they
like, things I get it with things like Markdoom and stuff. Like there's certain keys, maybe they could just block those, because they do it with certain items. It's like there's no rhyme or reason really. It's like lead X's, whatever, you can only hold so many and da da da. Like I know that it would be less intuitive, but I feel things like customs office key or whatever, like that's probably okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just,
or like a pipe for the hideout. It's probably all right.
I mean, I could see why they did it though, but looking at the RMT set, which we'll get into later, but I don't know. I just kind of hate it based off principle, because it's like it's like they're focusing on the symptoms, and then B, it's like, I don't know, just like in principle, like, should you change your rule set based around cheating? You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, anyways, moving on. There was one. I just got like a note here. Like he said something like ATV is like worse than hatchlings, which is kind of just an interesting position for me, because it's like, I don't know. I feel like I'd rather, like, this is kind of the irony of it. I find is like, to see this take I think even like Glorious has a similar take, which we talked about, but I just kind of like, I don't know if I can like agree with it. And I feel like they're kind of like even like telling on themselves a bit. Like, they say they want PvP, but then they also say,
not that kind of PvP.
Exactly. Thank you for saying it. It's just, I just find it kind of like you're not being truly honest here. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they're like trying to intentionally be deceitful, but just like their words don't line up all the time. There's a little bit of inconsistency. But I mean, like, as far as having an opinion that like ATV is worse than hatchling, sure, but I just feel like you can't also be like, arg, the PvP, like, I don't know. Anyways,
I also feel like on that particular topic, my 2 cents is I almost think that those things are coming from 2 different directions, because it's like that no one's hatchet running, but people are AVT running, but that's just because AVT is like bang for buck, just like insane.
Yeah, it's really good.
I don't think it's necessarily like, oh, if you took the AVT away, those people will now become hatchet runners. I don't think that's true, right? They'll just go to like, the next like minimum viable kit or whatever.
I mean, it's the Mosin meta all over again. It's just now it's fully automatic. I still think they need to like tweak that gun and the class in particular. But anyways, it's just just kind of crazy to me. But yeah, so moving on. There was another thing that really rubbed me the wrong way. It was like, I just have a note here, like, these guys don't play enough to understand the issues, which is just like, oh man, I really dislike that take a lot. It's like basically saying that I know better than you because it's kind of like invalidating someone's opinion or whatever. Like, you haven't met the minimum requirements, and like, I feel like there's some truth to that. Like, for example, I don't really value people's opinions on games where they haven't played like the entire game as much. You know what I mean? Like, if you have like especially if I disagree with your opinion, you know what I mean? It's like, well, but like, in other words, I'm saying like, that's fine. That's your opinion, but I feel like you're missing the context that I have with my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, I played the game, I beat the game. We'll say a single player game. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like there's some truth to it. But I feel like it doesn't invalidate, because there's definitely people who, there's like issues that, let's say you play a game, right? And I don't know, you play the game, it doesn't have like a tutorial, you're like really confused what to do, and then it's just like you're suffering constantly and you just like quit, right? You're like, yeah, this game sucks. And it's like, but the other guy, he played the game, beat the game, he's like, yeah, this is the best game ever. And it's like, well, you just didn't get through the shitty part till it gets to the good part. And it's like, yeah, I mean, he may not be wrong, but there's still like the guy that quit has a very valid point. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It was a shitty tutorial. Like,
and it put people off, and so they stopped playing, right? And there's a portion of people that's true for.
Right.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It's, I can't, like, as you say, it's kind of two things. The way that I see it is very true for certain aspects. Like, I will always defer to Tigz, Willers, Landmark, like any of those guys about, movement or like aim stuff, or I don't know, like that kind of things, like the high level skill things, or about bunny hopping and things like that, because they're way better than me at that kind of stuff. And those like intricate mechanics of gameplay, they're always gonna be better than me. And at the top levels of play, the balance at the top level, like they just have a better eye for that than I do. Or like, the state of labs or whatever. It's just like, I'm just not the guy to talk about that. That's fine. But there's like lots of other areas in Tarkov that, I am knowledgeable about and I have a lot of time spent in it. And it's a little bit like the analogy is not perfect, but it's almost a bit like the race car driver versus like the guy who like builds the vehicle. You know what I mean? Like the race car driver, like he's faster at driving the car, but he doesn't tell the engineer how to build the engine. You know what I mean? He can tell the engine guy like what he wants out of it, but it's up to the dude who knows the technical details to actually get the performance out, because there's two completely different fields. And I feel that like a lot of my critiques on the game come from like that aspect, which is about like player behavior, like the economy, stuff like that. Like our background in finance and things, so that, I know how markets work, how like players interact, or people interact with systems in that fashion. I've like real world experience of that kind of thing as well. And that's more fundamental. It's not just like playing the game, but that's like overarching like decision making, people's how people interact with systems and stuff like that. So I think there's two parts to it. There's two sides. Like most of the time, I try to keep my critiques into the areas where I feel like I am actually pretty risk averse in general. Like if I don't know, I won't make a video about it. So I only tend to make a video like this when I'm pretty sure of other topics I'm talking about and I've like researched it thoroughly. I never do these off the cuff. Those videos usually take me like 3 days to like script out, like slowly, painstakingly piece together like the background argument, and then to display it in a way that I think is most logically understandable. And I go back round and round and like look at all the flaws and try to address those in the video before anybody can comment and stuff. Which in this particular instance, I think I did a pretty good job at, because there was actually very few people who were just like, well, actually, in the comments. It was like almost none, because you could like disagree with certain aspects of it, and that's fine. That's just like opinion based. Like, oh well, I don't want it to be like this. Like, okay, that's fair enough. But there wasn't any like, oh, you haven't thought about this, or you've missed this out. Like that doesn't make logical sense. Blah blah. There wasn't any of that, and so that's the thing. It's like I think that I feel in some ways that it's as it's important to balance the top end of the game. Sure, like that is important, but it's important as well to make sure that we're thinking of like everybody through the player base, and I feel like I represent more of that like middle tier of player as well. and I try to think of the new guys as well, but I typically represent the typical player that's played for multiple wipes, but doesn't full time it, right? They have an actual like job or life, whatever. And I tend to, because I have like loads of people who jump into the stream and they're like, oh, I'm the same level as you, or like, oh, I've managed to go past you on level or whatever. So it's like I'm kind of like keep up with the pack of like dedicated players who play every wipe, and that's like its own point of view as well. So trying to marry up everything. Like we get to the end of the video, right, and Tigz is like, oh, I agree with pretty much all the stuff in here. So yeah, I'm not really bothered about it, but yeah, that's the thing. It's like that view is valid in certain circumstances and not in others, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I feel like it would be it would behoove the mechanic to hear the race car drivers' feedback of like, why car not go faster? You put more engine in it. I feel like it would be a bit of a disservice for the mechanic to sort of like brush off that opinion. Not take it as he may not know what he's talking about in this situation, but he still has, like, it's worth investigating. Yeah, I guess is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? It's like you just can't brush. I mean, you can. You're a bit of an asshole, but you just can't brush off. And vice versa, right? With the risk, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It goes both ways, and that's why I listen to these guys, right? Because they have valid opinions about the state of the game. But then sometimes I think like maybe there's some like nuance missed in certain aspects, or
sure.
Like you were saying about hatchlings versus AVT, I think there's like maybe some logical inconsistency there, or if there's potentially like the one that is the most one is like we need to find a way it's terrible because you can't keep stuff in your container, but then we can fix hatchlings by locking it, and it's like that's not logically consistent, I'm afraid.
Fountain rate's terrible because you can't keep stuff in
your container. Because you can't like put something in, you can't put a GPU in your container or a quest item and then go for PvP, and then if you die you've got quest progression. Right. Oh, but what about hatchlings? Oh, it's easy, we just lock the container.
Yeah,
like,
I get you.
That's like those two stances, like they're actually opposed. Like you can't
right.
Locking the container actually does the thing that you said you didn't want on the other side. So I don't know, like stuff like that.
All right. So my next one, speaking of containers, he says something along the lines like this idea of like no containers, like the same result if a cheater kills you. So like the argument is like, okay, we have containers now. You loot the item. This is very similar to what you're saying. GPU, you put it in your butt. What happens? A cheater runs and kills you. You die. You lose fountain rate. You can't use your free quest. If you lock the container, you can't put in your container. He runs and what's the cheater do? Same thing. He runs and kills you. You can't do it for your quests. You know what I mean? Like the only difference is you get to keep the item that's not found in raid, but like the argument is that you want it found in raid. So like they're basically the same thing. I mean, in a sense,
I guess like I mean, I guess the cheater doesn't get it though if it's in your container.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's actually a good point. Cheat denial.
Yeah, it's like that amazing Tigz clip. I actually really like that clip. He's on labs and the guy runs across and he's got the LEDX and he's got it in his bag. Yeah, as the guy comes through the door and he's like puts it in his container. It's like super funny. If anyone hasn't seen that clip, it's actually hilarious. But like exactly that. Like, would a cheater kill you if it was in your secure container? Like maybe not. Like they're cheating, but they can't get it out of there. So we know.
Yeah.
I know remember there was a cheat for that like 3 years ago where you could like steal stuff out of people's secure containers.
I think I remember hearing about it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it got patched like really fast, but it was a long time ago now. But we haven't seen that for a long time.
Yeah.
Like people losing like Red Rebel and stuff out of their melee slot and things like remotely. It was very weird.
They talked about the balance between the AVT and SVD. Like why would you ever use the SVD? Anyways, and like it's like the trade-off there is like you're going for a bit of a playstyle trade-off. It's like the AVT. It's like it's really good, but like situationally really good. Like you want to be like ratting in a corner, whereas like the SVD is a little bit more versatile. That's like what you're paying for. And in some ways you lose that ratting quote unquote capability. I'm gonna try to not read everything here because I just like wrote stuff as I was going on.
I see what you way with these things.
Yeah. So this one's interesting. There was this argument made that I'll just kind of read it. I don't think this is like word for word, but it says the old economy was better previous swipes, where more valuable because there was more barter trades. So I think the crux of it was like, in previous swipes you could make a lot of money by selling these barter items, whereas now you don't make as much. And his reasoning for that was because he said like BSG had removed a bunch of barter trades from back in the day, like nuts and bolts. And I was like, I don't know, that just like didn't strike well with me. Like he was, I think when he said it was the old economy was better, he was in that sense, what he meant was that you could make more money. I think a lot of it had to do with like, so like I looked it up. I won't pull it up, but I looked up like nuts and bolts for like barter trades because I didn't really know for sure. And like, if anything, the opposite was true. Like they've added more barters. Like there was like a few exceptions, like way like pre 2019, I think, pre 2020 or 20. Anyways, way back in the day, there was like for like a nut or a bolt, you could get like a Cobra sight from Prapper, which they no longer have that. But that was like the only thing. And like the PM pistol, is it the nuts and bolts for the PM pistol or the shrimp? I think it's the shrimp.
Shrimp's the kite, I think. I actually can't remember now.
Yeah, I can't remember. There's some pistol that you can barter for, and there's another barter. But my grander point is like a lot of the stuff is like that's been the pistol one has been there for a long time, and if anything, they've added more barters. And well, they're not necessarily barters, but they're hideout crafts. Like the requirements have only gone up for the crafting.
Yeah,
like the metal fuel.
Like some of it was the hideout craft stuff, but I think people used to value cases more highly. Like now they just tend to trend down to like the value of the trader. But like when they were first there, everyone was like, "Oh, you can craft, mag cases and stuff." And I think people used to like have more of them. Maybe you couldn't buy them as easily from the trader as well. I can't remember. Like maybe you could only. I just remember them being more profitable than they are now. A bit, but I think it's niche. I think it's only a few items. I don't think it's affected that much. I think like in general, barter items are kind of as most expensive as they've ever been, really.
Yeah, well, like if anything, I feel like they're most consistent with like that 10K price of slot mentality.
Yeah,
because I think what he's saying is like back then, which I don't know when back then is, but I'm assuming like pre-Found and Raid, so like 2019. Whenever Twitch drops happened, the big boom. Was that January 2019 or is that 2020? I honestly can't remember.
I feel like it's 19.
That's what I feel like, but it's not.
I feel like it is. That feels like a long time ago, but
yeah.
If we go to Twitch tracker, go and have a look. Oh, I've got to go to games. Oh. Because you can see it like relatively obviously. There we go. You can see relatively obviously on the chart if you do a big. Here we go. I think it was Jan 20 is when the game like really exploded. Yeah, because it was like
okay, it was 2020.
Yeah, it was 2020 because it was like nothing like before then. It just wasn't really a thing.
Yeah,
and then it suddenly went crazy.
Yeah. So I guess like I don't think he's right about nuts and bolts because like the if anything the demand for those is increased because like previously there was no demand because there wasn't any crafting items. There was like one barter item, maybe two, and they've only like added more to that stuff. So if he's right for the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
See what you mean.
Like, and this is kind of my point is like it's just kind of it goes back to that thing like you don't play enough to understand these issues. Touche. You know what I mean? Like that's why I don't like that take is because I just don't think it's a valid take. You can't say that. Everyone's experience and perspectives is different. It's not to say like anyways, there might be something true to what he's saying, like the old economy was better, like in terms of you can make more money. I think that's probably the case, and I suspect that's because the influx of players, new players, I don't know, and the kind of like Wild West flea market that was. It's really hard to say honestly, because now it feels like way more what would you say, consistent or like
That's
stable.
exactly what I was going to say. I feel like making money is more consistent now. Yeah, like for me, the most profitable wipe was the one where Bitcoin was like ridiculous pricing.
That's true. Yeah. Oh,
And it was really
that probably
quick.
had a major
But it
impact on the
inflated
market.
everything, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that probably had a major impact. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Forgot about that actually. Okay. So moving on. I think this one. Yeah. So Final Raid leave. FIR people leave bad because it ruins the enjoyment of the raid for everyone, aka dead raids, which I kind of agree with. I mean, I think I agree mostly with this. First 10 minutes was an impactful unless you rat. I rat now. I get to kill a lot of players. Yeah, again, I don't think this is word for word, but yeah, I kind of agree. It's like, yeah, FRI. I mean, it's partly because the spawns, but there's kind of like a multi reason, but like largely, yeah, it's like after first 10, like the 10 minutes are the most impactful. It feels like
Yeah.
If you need a LEDX, you need to get to the LEDX spawns. Like you just have to. So like it depends on where you spawn. It depends on if you run the players. Like it's kind of annoying, grindy thing you gotta just like do. Assuming, I mean, now we have the craft, so it's a lot different. But
well, the craft for the LEDX you can't do until you've got Lightkeeper, and you need to get his book.
Oh my god! Wow, yeah, I'm really out of touch.
So it's kind of painful now. Like I had that experience on Labs too, right? Because it's like, well, because the spawns are set for these items, GPSA, MCC, you just have to rush them. You can't just like wait and go and do it like you can with another quest. Because by the time you get there, everyone's taken them. And even if the people don't need them, because they're worth like 90k each, I can't remember what the value is exactly, but they're like a lot. People take them and then just sell them to the trader because Therapist pays like loads of money for them. So they're just like hoovered up by everybody. So you have to like rush in and go and get them. And I mean, it's good for like the first 10 minutes of PvP, but after that, you're just like, oh, I may as well just reset.
Yeah.
Because all the spawns are cleared out now.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just, he has this like first 10 minutes is impactful unless you're rat, and then he goes on to say something to the effect of I rat now, I get to kill lots of players, and it's like, again, it's like if you want PvP, is this not, by your own admission, this is not kind of, I understand it's probably not the exact type of PvP he's looking for, right? I
mean, I understand that critique. The critique is about the emergent gameplay. I get that take. I think that's fine as a take, honestly, because it's like we're saying, the systems of making the emergent gameplay suck, and I'm doing the most like effective thing that I can, but it's boring as hell.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the preferred emergent, gameplay.
Yeah, like my opponent doesn't even see me, and I just have to lie there for 10 minutes, 15 minutes before I see anybody. But when I do, I auto win, and they just instantly die because it's too crazy. Like I watched his cabbage on head stream thing. He's like wearing that ridiculous level 3 helmet with the cabbage thing, and he was like lying in this particular place. Probably everybody knows about it now that the video came out. But like Teams of 2 are like right next to him. Like he's basically just camping outside Black Room. He's like impossible to see because he's just a potted plant. Pretty much, and it's like it's crazy. They were like people stood right next to him, and he's just like lying there with a Viper Hunter. It's like he's not even that concealed, but because people are just not used to looking for people like that on labs, and there isn't really any vegetation. The very few places where there is some foliage or whatever, people just don't see you at all.
Yeah, and I argued again. There's just a lot of like information to take in. You know what I mean? Like Counter-Strike, Valorant. It's like very simple colors and patterns.
Yeah.
Like they do changes on the map to help with visibility. They'll do like patches for that stuff. Whereas like Tarkov is just like whatever, you get what you get. So there's just so much it's hard. It's extremely hard.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've had some kills on Interchange, which is like probably just like FPS brain trained. I think there's a scientific study about how like FPS players obviously just have the same eyesight as everybody else, but our brains are trained to spot patterns of a particular type more so than the average person. And FPS players can spot changes like gray on slightly different gray,
Yeah.
way better than any other,
Yeah.
like than people who don't play, right?
It's like
it's
Eagle
obvious.
Eye.
Yeah, it's like Eagle Eye, and it's like, interchange. I can think of two off the top of my head. One where there's like a dude in the fog, like I'm at the bottom of one of the escalators. I'm just like, is that? And it's like headshot the guy with the RFB through the glass, through the fog, and kill him. And then another one where it's like, throw a nade and the guy moves, he gets shot up by scavs, and because of all the information that they can piece together, plus like a little bit of a like fuzzy shadow type thing, I end up like shooting the guy there and killing him as well. But like through the video compression, I'm sure no one could see it other than me. And also, even if like a regular person was watching, there's absolutely no way that they'd know that there was a person there. It's like a combination of like pattern recognition plus also context, like knowing the map layout without even being able to see it. Like the scav's shooting at him, so he can't move that way. That means he must be in this particular position behind this particular piece of cover. Like all the pieces of information add up, which then score you a kill or whatever. Like it's kind of crazy actually how experience gets you those kind of weird kills that, like, so to the ordinary eye, somebody might actually think that it was suspicious, if they didn't play EFT or like FPSs. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's like you'd see those crazy flicks by like pro players. And it's like, dude, that looks like hacks. like there's no it's like very unlikely they're cheating. You know what I mean? It's like what would you call a suspension of disbelief or something, or it's like I can't believe what I'm seeing. Like there's no way this guy's legit, but like he is legit. But it's also like there's no way. So I'll just speed things up. So you say by removing FIR, you're basically letting cheaters hover items on the map and transfer it. And Tigz responds, they do it anyway. 300 rounds of BP for $15 is worse than it was before. RMT is so easy. So I'll get into that later, but just note, just take a little pin that for now. So then the next one, so you say you may as well reduce impact on extra players, and Tigz responds that the only player that's getting punished is the different player. You are only getting punished on behalf of the cheater in hopes that the changes affect the cheater. The reality is they go to a different method and do the same thing again, which I think is relatively true, speaking. Mm-hmm. As I said, I kind of dislike, I understand what BSG is doing, but I kind of disagree with it.
I think I do now.
Yeah,
I'm glad they tried it, but I think they need to rethink it at this point, especially some of the stuff that's just more annoying, like we said about item limits and some things like that. Like it's not changing anything. Like that's not the way they're doing it either now. Like they just do carry service. So
would you like? We're going on a tangent, but like, would you? Can we say the same logic is true for something like just remove the flea market? Because like in one sense you're changing the game for cheaters, right? But like a lot of the problems seem to stem from the flea market.
What the problems with cheaters?
Mm-hmm.
The carry service doesn't really require that, I don't think. You can still sell the stuff to traders.
Yeah, I guess it's true. Yeah.
I think that used to be the case, and especially with barters.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
But I think it's less so now.
Okay, so you say passing keys, hideout items, number of items held out once, etc. These things disproportionately hurt players that haven't. These things disproportionately hurt players and haven't hurt RMT that much, seemingly. And then Tigz said it's made it worse, which I guess we'll like get into that later as well. So put a pin into that. Fun got sucked out of the game. Old market. Cheaters exist regardless. So yeah, okay. So this was a true point. Like the marked rooms, dude. Oh, dude, it's so wild to think that back in the day we could hit marked rooms and get like a weapon case, and then you could put weapons inside the weapon case. Like, dude, we used to go into raids and we would hit marked room. We would get a weapon case and be like, all right, you have to fill it up. We're not leaving this raid till you fill it up. And like that was like, oh man, it's so intense. Like, you got all these like guns in there, and it's like you didn't know weight system back then. It was crazy, dude, back then. But it was so like it's like extreme Tarkov,
Yeah.
It's like
I know.
hard. You got like extreme sports. This is like extreme Tarkov edition.
And this is why people talk about weight system too, being like, before the weight system, that it didn't matter. You could just take as much stuff out as well. So it's kind of like why do you need another risk reward system to like punish you for taking loot out when like the risk reward is already like keeping all your stuff and keeping on going? Keeping on going was kind of the risk in the first place. And I've like sort of come around to that a little bit. Like, I understand why they want it in there for like realism or whatever. I feel like they could relax the weight system and just like push up the thresholds quite a bit, and it wouldn't like negatively affect the game. Like, you can quite easily have lots of space left in your bag and be overweight and like hard to move. So,
yeah, I think there would be some, because like in one sense you could argue like nothing's changed, the intensity's still the same, but it's just different. So like,
in what sense?
I mean, it's not entirely true because like the values change, right?
That's the thing. Like, the value is so different, right?
Yeah, but like hypothetically, let's say they put the value back in. Well, like now it's even more intense. As soon as you loot the weapon case, you're instantly overweight. You're down to 1 movement speed. It's like, dude, this is so intense.
And then you use your stems.
Yeah, then you use your stems. Now you got 5 movement speed versus 1. I don't know. It's I too kind of I see what they're saying. It's at the end of the day, I would just like to not have a hyper focus on changing game rules around cheating, because they seem to have done. I mean, like, there's been so many changes that feels like it revolves around that. Anyways, so yeah, I agree with that. So yeah, fun. Okay, yes. So one thing he talks about, like locking the containers. I think you were talking about that, and like Tigz thinks BSG hasn't locked the container because of sales and marketing. Like, he says he bought EOD for the purpose of like rubles per hour. Like, when he was first starting out, he sucked at the game. EOD, just like, you get more stuff, you get more stash space, you save money from those methods, you get free stuff, and you get a bigger container, which means you effectively, especially back then, you would just make more money. Like, there's just more GPUs to put in your butt.
Or you lose less, I guess, as well. It's like you either make more,
however,
or you lose
however
less,
you want to look at it. Yeah,
same thing. Yeah.
So, I feel like there's a lot of truth to that, and as far as like objectively, I think that's true. But I think there's a lot of truth to why BSG hasn't locked the container is because of those reasons, and it's kind of unfortunate, I would say. I can't really say.
Slowly getting there. Like, you can't put mags in there, you can't put helmets in there, you can't put guns in there, you can't put MCCs, GPSAs, the rusted bloody key. It's like they're slowly boiling the frog, turning the dial up.
Yeah.
Bit by bit, rather than just doing it wholesale, and people accept it then, right?
Well, the guns in the containers was like definitely a Giga exploit.
I know,
you could just you could just like, I think you could just use them straight from there, and maybe you couldn't. I don't know. I
think you had to like alt click them in, but even still, you could just suddenly go, I'm a Timmy, I'm a Timmy, I'm a Timmy, and then you're just like instant Glock. And that was like back in the day when the Epsilon case was actually preferable to the Gamma, because you could get a 2x4 gun in your pouch.
Oh yeah, dude! Wow, that's crazy.
The Gamma was like 3x3, right? Whereas you could put like an RFB in the. I mean, I don't think the RFB even existed when this thing was in, but you could put a gun like that in there. Yeah. You could have some like pocket rockets. You could have like drum mag AK with no
silence
stock,
MP7
kind of stuff. Or silence, like an MP5 SD or whatever, right? And you go like, oh, don't kill me, I'm a Timmy, and then you just suddenly you just pull this MP7 out of your butthole.
Just so busted, because like you're like literally risking nothing, but now you have like kill potential. It's like, God, that's so. Oh, dude, if I played back then, I probably would have never played Tarkov ever again, dude. I probably never. Probably this game is garbage. All right, so get to the juicy stuff. As soon as I figure out, okay, I'm just gonna read this. I don't know who's saying this, but I have in quotes. I'm assuming it's Tigz. All right, so we were good at the game, so we understood how the game worked. The guys that wanted these changes were never good at the game. They could never adapt to the game's meta. They always claim you shouldn't be able to Chad. This has ruined the game. This isn't COD. They just never adapted, ever. They literally stayed trash the entire time. So I can't remember the context of this, unfortunately.
It wasn't me saying that.
No.
Yeah. Surprise.
I think this was in relation.
Just never adapted. They don't shift W like us. Red armband gang
Can
for
you
life.
imagine, dude? Someone needs to make a meme of like
My freaking
AI
alter ego.
generated. Yeah, AI
I have to
generated.
do one stream a week. I have to like do like the shift W Chad beef or something.
So I don't know. There's a lot of to unpack here. I guess I'll just like to not unpack everything. I think this was in relationship to like why, like basically the game's bad because these people wanted these changes and they said these things, and they're just bad, and now game more bad, and they also are bad because there was like they don't play anymore. It's like
I think you're talking about clean.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I got my fair critiques of Clean, don't get me wrong. But I don't know, man. It's just, dude, it's just like, dude, this take is rough, dude.
Thing is, BSG were always going to do this stuff. I don't think you can like blame it on streamers, right? Like BSG were always going to put in the weight system. They were always going to put in like, maybe not like some of the other things. I don't know whether like finding raid would have. I'm not sure. Like there were problems that needed to be fixed. To be fair, like people were going to hatch things about anyway and stuff like that. So like they were going to do something about it. Like inertia, I know that the community cried for inertia so much because of jiggle peaking. So like maybe BSG wouldn't have changed that without player feedback. That's true. I'm just trying to think of like what did people influence? Like people definitely influenced inertia being added. Like you go back to pre-inertia time. Like this thing, people always forget. People have very short memories about this stuff. Like you go back to pre-inertia times, and every other post on Reddit was about like, look at this, garbage gameplay, like jiggle peeking around corners. Like every fight is a coin flip.
Right.
We need inertia in this game. Like instantly, people just like quick peeking. Do you remember the old glorious quick peek clips?
Yeah.
Dude was absolutely insane. He'd just go like, "Badam!" and just like smash a headshot off, and like you just couldn't even see him on the other guy's screen. It was like the ultimate end game of right hand peeking.
But that wasn't even like
with bad netcode combined with like speedy peeking on like an intense level. It was crazy. The Turkish peek.
The Turks. I mean, that wasn't even like movement per se. It was just like using the lean system to your advantage. How it worked. I mean, now they like obviously slow that down. Like it really has nothing to do with inertia. They just slowed it down.
I mean, it's inertia of leaning, right? It's all part of the same system.
Not though. It doesn't have anything to do with it. They just literally slowed it down. Like it doesn't matter if you're super heavy or not. It's just unrelated. They just flat out slowed it down.
Yes, I mean in my mind that's the same thing though. But it's like they're two.
I guess that's what you're saying.
It's like it's part of the broader like your character has inertia mode.
I know what you're saying.
So like all movement has a slower acceleration and deceleration in a generality, whether that be leaning, walking, stopping, running, whatever it is. It is.
No, I get what you're saying.
But yeah, people just cried so hard before for it, and now inertia's in. Now it's just like we hate inertia. Inertia's
well, dude. To be fair, I think BSG is just not very good at implementing stuff, dude.
This is also true.
It's like the new recoil system has got me, we'll see. We just know, like, I'm sorry, like, just expect to be able to, like, clip through buildings with the new mounting system. You know what I mean? Just, like, it's gonna, I don't know. Like, I hate to be like, BSG sucks, but, at the same time.
I mean, they have proven themselves not particularly robust in their capabilities. I think that's the thing. Like, whenever they implement stuff, they either manage to implement the logic in a sort of slightly perverse way, or the actual like coding itself is slightly rough in one way or another. Like even now with the culling system, this is more excusable to be fair because the maps are complicated, but there's still spots on the streets I see people raising bugs about where you poke your head through and the whole map becomes completely invisible and you can see players and all of this kind of thing. Like that happens in other games too, and like the maps are complicated in EFT, so like that's fair enough. But yeah, things like we've talked about it all at length, Scav Karma and like changes they've made, finding raid, like everything. We've never liked finding raid ever since it first came in, but we agree with the outcomes. But like there's more ways than one to get the outcome that you want, like
Right.
which again is partly what this whole video was about in the first place, because I was trying to propose some other alternative situations or solutions that do the things they want it to do without doing the other things, that the collateral damage that comes along with finding raid. But there's so much to it, right?
Yeah. And I mean,
So,
they're they're a double A studio in my mind, at least. They're in pre-production.
yeah.
I mean, there's like, I get it, but it's tough when you're passionate about the game. So yeah, I don't think I have to say much more about that. I don't know. That was just really rough, man. I'm not gonna do that. I would skip that. Okay, so this is an interesting one. So Tigz doubts BSG's RMT monitoring. He mentioned Vibins and Quattro Ace bands, which, if we remember, sorry, I'm smacking my desk a lot, so it's probably picking up the microphone. We remember the those bands when those happened and the drama around that. And he believes the devs were actively watching them and looking for an excuse to ban them, to set an example, which is an interesting conspiracy theory, which I have my own conspiracy theory. Yes. So my theory is that these players in particular, I know especially Vibin, Quattro Ace I'm not positive about, but Vibin especially, to often take viewer kits. And I suspect, based off my own experience, that when people trade items, BSG are somehow tracking that in the game. And he probably traded items with someone who was an RMTer or had previously dealt with RMT or something, and is why he got banned. And I suspect it wasn't really anything like, oh, look, Vibin TV, let's ban him. I just kind of suspect, it was just another guy that was checking a box on this list. Same with Quattro Ace. I don't really know either way. Like I said, there's really no thing, but that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I mean, this is the reason why streamers are then worried to take viewer kits, because they were like, well, I can't police, like, how do I know who's RMT or not? And kind of the word unofficially was like, don't worry, you'll be fine. But it's like, if they've done RMT, like, am I still going to get banned? I don't know. I can kind of see it, because like, I think some people have continued to take kits now and just like no one's been banned. So I think maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure. I could see it. I don't know.
It honestly, it could go either way, to be honest. I mean,
because they were trying to like combat boosting as well, right? At the same time, because it wasn't even RMT, but they didn't like what they were doing anyway, just philosophically. Like BSG just didn't like streamers just taking like not constant, non-stop viewer kits.
Is that true? Because I thought their main issue was like Nikita's advice was don't take kits, like just like don't take items, like don't
take like
items.
Ridiculous kits.
Yeah, and maybe he did have a caveat, like don't take anything expensive or something.
Like in the end, it was like just be reasonable and you'll be okay, which is why we complained, right? Because like they didn't give any hard lines, and it's like, well, if they give any hard lines, then people know the lines to go under if you're doing actual RMT. But for streamers, it's like, well, we're just not going to take kits anymore because we just don't know where the line sits.
I mean, if you're giving me 4 boxes of BP, like that's pretty extreme, right? So
yeah, it was extreme. Yeah,
it would probably look like RMT if you were watching. Anyways, point is we don't really know. We're not BSG. Only they know. So based off this, and then the final thing is like my conclusion was that like it's clear Tigz wants players to be around engaging with other players, but with the emphasis of movement and not ratting. Because there's notably with like the argument about they never adapted segment. I think he was specifically talking about movement at the time. So anyways, what was I going to say about that? Yeah, I think that's kind of like, which no surprise, right? I think that's kind of like Tigz's general mindset. So I think most people understood that. Okay, so I looked into RMT. All right, I did it. I looked into it. I was even debating about, am I allowed to say this? buying some and see what would happen on my alt account. I was thinking about buying some and then just like never logging on. Sorry, launching the launcher. I don't know actually, because you'd have to hit start game to see if it'd be banned. Anyways, it was something I was thinking about, like buy it and then never like do the dirty business, right? And then never do anything and just see what happens. Like, I was kind of curious. Because that's kind of my theory. But anyways, I looked into it, and I also looked into my Discord logs where my friend of a friend bought RMT and got banned, and I looked at the date of it, and it turns out it was, oh god, where was it? Where did I put it? June 2020. Sorry, what am I saying? June 20th, 2020. And it was likely some days before it then.
That's a long time ago now in like Tarkov history.
That is a long time ago. I think that is pre Found and Raid, if I remember correctly.
Pretty sure it is.
So yeah, it was quite a different time back then. No. That's wrong. Actually, no, that's wrong, because I remember looking this up. Found and Raid happened on, I need to find it. Where's it at? God, my notes look like some crazy scribblings of a wildebeest. I think, okay, what is that? 05/28, 20th, is that May or April? February, March, April, May. May 28th, 2020. Patch 12.6.7526.
Yeah, was that 28th
Found and Raid?
thing?
That was the Found and Raid patch, right? So then I'm starting to remember it. So my friend comes back. Sorry, friend to friend. Got to keep the distance here. The friend to friend comes back from a long work. He hasn't played. He finds out about Found and Raid. He hates the system. What does he do? RMT. So maybe some credence to some of the critiques given by Tigz, notably, and others. So anyways, I thought that was interesting to look back up. But I looked at RMT today, and man, it is so sketchy. Because like you just have to like trust these people, like they actually have what you're buying. On one sense, like you're not going to get scammed out of it. You know, like you're not getting an account. Like, okay, so you can buy accounts, and some of them are like really questionable. There's one of like, I had like a 70 something survival rating, and it was like level 50. It's like really high level, right?
Right.
And the like KD is like 30. It's like something ridiculous. And it's like, okay, bro, like I'm gonna buy that account and I'm gonna get by the time I get it, I'm gonna be banned, right? There's just no like, I don't. It's like really questionable how some of these accounts are gotten, because if they're like leveled up via cheating, then I just feel like you're gonna get banned. So who wants to buy that account? And these accounts are not cheap. Like these high level ones, they are not cheap at all.
Really?
Yeah, it's very expensive. Now and they're like, and what's crazy too is like they're really like they're only like 28 days old. Like the account was like just made.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's really bizarre, because like there's definitely a market for people to buy these accounts that are legit, that haven't been cheated on, but have been gotten nebulously, stolen or otherwise some other method. And those are like cheap, like $30 ish, we'll say. But like some of the ones that are like highly leveled have like all this gear on it, blah blah blah. It's just like, some of them was like it looked kind of okay, like, oh yeah, maybe this is a legit account. The metrics look kind of okay based off I don't know what I'm looking at. Maybe like if you look at the health healing stuff, there's something there. I don't know what the average would be, but it's like, why would you? I don't know. It's just kind of
remember that weird like statistic people looking into that dude who'd supposedly gone. Was it Lightkeeper or something? I can't remember. Was it Kappa? I'm not sure.
It was like Lightkeeper, I think, or something. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and everyone was like, "This just makes no sense." The dude's got like 10x less healing XP than like everyone else. He like never gets shot, kind of thing. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just like, dude, if I buy this account, am I not like, because I'm paying hundreds of dollars, am I not gonna get just like instantly banned because this like it just looks so sussy from me looking at it? But that's the reason I brought up accounts is because the sites typically do like have insurance for accounts, but for like actual virtual items, they don't seem to have insurance for through like the services you're providing. So it's like really sketchy if you're actually going to get what you want. But let's assume you do get what you want, right? So I went through and looked at a couple of different sites and a couple of different offers, and there's a lot of interesting stuff because they have. I mean, it's like any other business. You got like customer reviews, etc. So I looked at the customer reviews for this one in particular, and they had like 90 days. Last 90 days was like 100% positive review, and all time was like 97.23. I was like, okay, that's pretty good. 180 orders in the last 90 days with a 98.89% success delivery. And the account was ranked uncommon, which is between 1K and 5K USD monthly transactions. And this rank updates monthly and allows for a 2-month protection period before deranking. So like if you fail to meet the quota for like the next 2 months, and on third month you derank. And for that ranking, he gets taxed 8% off his transactions. But this account was only Tarkov, and like all they did was sell, at least as their offers now, all they were selling was like rubles via flea market. And for 50 million, well, let's do this backwards. For $50, you could get 50 million rubles. So $1 equals 1 million. There's a minimum, but whatever, that's the point. And based off my calculations, to meet that quota for their rank, they were doing around 20 to 100 transactions a month, like last month anyways.
Right. Which
is a pretty big range. It could be very close to 100, but I still think that's pretty on the low end. I mean, granted, this is just one account, mind you.
The other thing, just to dip in for a second, one thing that sort of almost reassures me in some ways is that those like high level accounts, whatever, like are really expensive. Because if it was really easy to do, supply and demand would dictate that they would be cheaper, right? Unless like maybe it's just you went on one site that was expensive or whatever, I don't know. But like if that is the going rate for these things, if it is like hundreds of dollars, it shows that it's not actually as easy as like they'd like to make it out to be.
$300.
Like that's it's a decent work, I suppose. But yeah, it sort of shows that it's not. Yeah, it's not like $50 to get level 50 account with like a bunch of cash and stuff or whatever. So I guess that's the thing. There is the real risk. These accounts only have a lifetime of like so long before they get banned and stuff. So it's all on a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, the accounts are really questionable unless you're buying like fresh ones. Because there's definitely a market. There's a lot of those. There's a market for that. So that was one account. In their description, they were working for 5 years. It's done. They've been doing this for like 5 years. Only focused on Tarkov. They're so dedicated to the product. Because this is important. Because we'll get into some of the other ones I looked at, but it's important that they're only with Tarkov. And this one is they actually go into raid, and so you don't need flea market, because some people do it through the flea market, which I think is just, if you're going to do that, don't do it that way. It's my unofficial
expensive
advice.
Item, like they put them in expensive item, and you buy it from them. Like
they'll be like, we don't cover the cost of the flea. Like they want you to sell valuables like a raven at like a really high price, but you're still going to get taxed. So it's just like, dude, there's like so many negatives to doing through the flea. So anyways, there's that, which I thought was kind of interesting. I looked at the reviews in the month of September, and there was only 12 positive reviews. Now, mind you, I don't know how much that accounts for the 20 to 100 transactions. Obviously, there has to be more purchases, at least 8 made to meet that quota, right? Presumably. My point is like, there's not a lot of reviews. I don't know how much that actually matters, because I don't often leave reviews for everything I purchase, right?
Yeah.
So but the one interesting thing I saw a lot of duplicates reviews. And I started going back. Now I clicked back a lot of times. It would only like display 5. So I had to click back every time to keep going back. So I wanted to see the history reviews, right? Because mind you, like their overall reviews is like 97% positive.
Mm-hmm.
So there's fairly any bad stuff. But I wanted to see the frequency of the reviews being dropped, right? I wanted to see trends and stuff. So, as I said, I kept clicking Giga and kept clicking and kept scrolling and averaging and counting. So, in July 2023, there was 71 positive reviews. A lot of duplicates, so a lot of like return reviews, or I don't know what that is. And notably, July 20th had dozens of the same user, which is even more interesting. Like, someone just like either buying a lot and reviewing a lot of the same things. Maybe just
all faked.
It's just all faked. I mean, who knows, right?
It's a cheating site, right? Like, basically.
It's like, right.
It's like, are you going to trust them? I don't know.
I don't know. But maybe there's some incentive, be like, hey, if you leave a good review, I'll throw in an extra 5,000 rubles or, whatever,
whatever.
A million rubles. Maybe, who knows, you know what I mean? So now going back further, now what's interesting is there's 71 reviews in July, and there's that period, right? Which I think is around when the wipe happened. So we could see kind of a big spike. Like September is only 12 reviews.
Well, it was really late though. This is this year, right?
Yeah, this year.
Then, well, the wipe was that was sort of it was in the gear up, but the wipe ended up happening in August, didn't it? Because it was like went over so long.
Oh, good point.
Was it the 10th or something? I can't remember now.
I honestly don't remember, dude.
But it was super, super, super late. So it ended up not being then. So that would have been like the pre-wipe, like gear up period.
Okay. So that's even more interesting then. Okay. Well, let's continue because I haven't actually, I haven't like fully looked at it and came to any like real conclusions. So March 7th through 5th, there was this one thing where like it would note that the buyer review was changed by an admin, which is weird. Like insinuating, like I don't know if the insinuation is that it went from like a negative view to a positive view via an admin. It's just weird. And then there's the same user that just like keeps popping up from like where I mentioned he had dozens in like the month of June and July. He's now popping up again. Okay, so now we're getting to some more interesting stuff. There's a massive gap between February 20th to January 19th. Like there's no data, nothing, just a big gap. So either like the seller wasn't getting a lot of business or that people weren't reviewing. I don't know, just whatever. And then there's another gap. Again, January 19th, 2023 to October 31st, 2022. Just like another weird, like he just came back, did a little business, boom, vacations, maybe. I don't know, dude. Weird stuff, right? And that's kind of around the wipe-ish, which is even more odd. I don't know. It's just weird. But again, these are just reviews. These aren't actual anything. Okay, so sorry, I was checking on something. Okay, I'm trying to go over all of this. It's just a lot. I just went, like I said, I was really chasing the scroll hard, and in the end, the scroll still won. So it picks up, and so basically now we're in like 2020, right? There's a lot in like April through January of 2020. The same user is back. Like you can only see his first character of his username is capital R, and the last character of his username is 1. There's just like asterisks in between. So that's all you see for the reviews, is just like one letter at the beginning, one letter at the end.
Yeah.
But this R1 guy just keeps popping up in so many spots and multiple. It's just weird.
It just sounds all spurious to me.
Spurious, what's that mean?
Like, it just doesn't even sound like, none of these sound real. I wouldn't. I don't think there's even anything.
just
Like, is there
don't know,
anything
dude.
to read into any of this? Like, I don't know if it's even sensible data because it just sounds like garbage in. You know?
It could be, but for the sake of it, so I can cope, just let me cope and let me finish. Okay, so yeah, same kind of trends in 2021. There's just we're into like dozens territory. Okay, dozens of reviews. Remind you, back in 2023, there was just a lot, like 71. But now we're into like 2021. We're still in the dozens. Again, there's some admin review changes on the R1 guy in September 2021. Just another weird thing. So first quarter 2021, not seeing R1 anymore, but seeing new repeat users. We're still kind of in the dozens. January 2021 into December 2020. We're seeing much less, dozens at best. Picks back up in November 2020. There's a crap ton in September 2020, maybe 40 to 50 by my estimate. Back to dozens in July, all the way up to July, the 23rd of July, 2020. Now there's a new gap from July 2020 to June 29, 2020. And there's less than a dozen. Oh my God, my notes are so awful. Then there's one on May 29th, one on April 3rd, one on March the 31st. Again, we're still in the year 2020. March 15 resumes with dozens. Then there's a gap that jumps to February 19th. Again, dozens. January is dozens. December 2019 is maybe a dozen and a half. November 2019 is a dozens with a S. October 2019 is 5 reviews. There's a gap to April 2019, maybe a dozen and a half in that month period, and then another gap to 2018. So, like, anything I could say for trying to take any of this seriously, because I was like, okay, I went pretty far back. I'm done. It seems like it kind of has ramped up, but notably, especially after 2019, like in basically drops, like after drops, it started to ramp up.
I mean, the player base was a lot more, so kind of makes sense.
It kind of makes sense. But it was kind of a slow ramp up. Like, there's a little bit in February and January, and there's a big gap. But once you get to the summer, then it's like that's when like the business starts really picking up. And then let's see, when did we say the FIR change was? What was that March?
Wasn't that
2020? Yeah. Oh, no. May.
Yeah, May 2020.
Which is interesting because there is a big, based off my, so I said there's a gap on, oh God, this is so hard to because I did it backwards. So there's one on May 29th, one on April 3rd, one on March 3rd, which is weird. And then after that, in June 29th, we'll just say, just jump from July 23rd to June 29th. There's less than a dozen, but like prior to the Found and Raid stuff, there was still a low-ish amount, probably a bit more. But then once we start getting into like 2021, it starts to be in the dozens territory and onwards. So like it's kind of like how I would kind of try to summarize it is there was a little bit of startup, drops happened, some time passed by, there's still in that startup phase, FIR changes happen, adaption still starting up, 2021 rolls around, business is now growing. It's kind of what I'm hitting with. I don't know, man. It was a giant rabbit hole I went down, and should I continue? There's more, just a bit more, and then I'll be done. I promise.
I just want to know what the conclusions you have are.
I don't know if there's anything to conclude.
Well, maybe we
I'm
call
crazy.
it there then, because I don't know, because I think you've gone slightly mad. I think you've cracked. I think you've entirely cracked.
All right, there's one more. There's one more. Okay, so same site, new seller. All right, because this is the thing that I was going to mention is a lot of these sellers are not selling just Tarkov. They have businesses in all these other games, like games I haven't even heard of, and they're selling
doing
like
real
accounts,
cheats.
Accounts, items, coins, currencies. Like I saw one guy was selling Marvel Snap tokens or whatever. I'm like, how do I even get that? I don't even understand. And then I looked into it. You have to give him my account username, but not my password. Just my username. I was just like, dude, it's just, anyways. So I say that to say is like, why I looked at that person in particular, because according to them, they were only Tarkov. So the reviews are only from Tarkov, right? If they're legit to begin with. Whereas like the other people, I can't really look at the reviews because the reviews there are from like all the other businesses they have. You know what I mean? I can't really trust anything. So this one person in particular, same site, new seller, they were selling I gotta switch to dark mode. They were selling this is the one I think Tigz posted on his Twitter, like 3 mutants, an RD, and a BP. It's like a bunch of meta gear, right? And it's like $25 for it, right? And it's like you get maybe 3 kits and a box full of BP is what it looks like, which comes out to like just under 3,000 rounds of BP. And it's a thing. You go into raid, they drop you the stuff, whatever, and boom, you did the business, right? So what I thought was interesting is a lot of these sellers will have inventory of how much they can sell, right? So we'll say like how much left is available of that stock that you're buying, and the stock is like in the hundreds of thousands, which if I'm looking to buy BP from someone, I don't actually believe that they have hundreds of thousands of boxes of BPs. Like they don't even fit into the thing, right? So it's kind of like just this whatever number they throw up there. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't really mean anything. Like it should in practice, but
it just means if you want it, we got it, right? Kind of thing.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, we can get it to you, but like, anyways. This person, their current stock when I took the screenshot was 999,920 available, right? So I'm assuming they put their stock as like, I have 1 million of these kits, right? This package or whatever, which I don't believe, but that lets me know that 80 people have bought this package, presumably, right? If supposed to trust the website.
See the logic, yeah.
So, I don't know how long this seller's been around or whatever, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. And one last note I have here is I went to a completely new site. So the last 2 were from the same site. This is a completely new site, a new seller, carried service accounts, rubles, and for review. This site, I could actually see where the reviews were coming from, like what they were reviewing. The other site, I could just see the reviews. But I couldn't see what they were actually reviewing, just reviewing the seller in general, which they could sell anything. This site, I could see what they're actually reviewing, the product. And this one person only had 4 in the last 30 days from EFT, 4 reviews from EFT in the last 30 days. So also just like, it just seems like a very low thing, right? I don't know, man. I guess I was thinking about cracking open the Wayback Machine and like really looking, because I just find it really hard to believe that RMT has increased since the Founding Raid changes. Criticisms Founding Raid still remain true, but I think it genuinely made it more challenging for them to do business, because like previously you could literally just RMT on the flea market. You'd probably still get banned, but it was so much easier.
And you could do it with barters to limit like costs and stuff. It was so easy,
Yeah. And this was like before the tax changes too. Like there's been a lot of like cumulative changes to really like I mean, God, Giga, you can't even drop a key anymore to your buddy. He needs to
I
get into the
think-
bunkhouse key. You can't even drop him a key anymore.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the point though with the RMT and these days in some ways is that it is like kind of limited because like when I did like a cursory search for it just to see,
Mhm.
and like the stuff that was coming up when I went on is like it sort of looks like RMT to start with, but then when you go into the actual site, it's like, oh, if you know whatever you need for your quest, like tank battery, LEDX, GPSA, MCC, whatever it is, like we'll run raids until you find it. It was all carry service stuff. And I think that's the thing. Like, yeah, RMT has got harder. Like, I think we all agree on that, to be honest with you. And that's why the carry service is now like the thing because it's so much easier. Because it's like yeah, you're partied up. It's like kind of other than that, it's kind of hard to detect. Like if the guys keep their stats under control, don't kill anybody, like they're just looting stuff on the map. It's like you'd have to do some like heuristical like statistics to say, what's the average player taking out of each raid at this level on these maps, blah blah blah, and like compare them to averages and stuff to actually detect that stuff. It's so much harder than like this guy's bought a bandage for 50 million rubles. It's like it's as you say, right? It's so stupid to do this stuff on the flee, like people used to. It's so much harder to detect people doing carry service. It's tricky.
Well, I would imagine you could just you see. I would assume BSG would have the foundation set to where you could see who's queuing with who. Like who's matching. So like if you in theory could detect the cheater, then I guess you couldn't. You would have to detect that they were actually doing RMT. That's the tricky thing, part, like, right? I could part of a cheater and not know. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because it's like detecting cheats is like one thing,
right?
But if they obviously can't do that most of the time. Well, like there's I don't actually really know anything about the numbers. So like we're just going to say there's a portion of the time where they can't detect the cheat for whatever reason. So at that point, you're then like, okay, well we can't get the guy for cheating, but we have to detect the RMT behavior instead, which is where the statistics come through. Which I mean, they seem to have some of this stuff set up, like doing stupid stuff through the flee, or maybe giving people like ridiculous amounts of items. But it is hard to not like flag up false positives. Like, I guess there's certain things that to a player, like an experienced player, like warning signs, like a guy's level 50 with a tree backpack, and there's a dude in his party with nothing. Like that for start is like kind of, but like you could have a legitimate player doing that as well. Like in theory, with his friend who's like level 1. It's hard to not flag up false positives. But I think if you combine all the stats together, you could probably find like pretty good statistical likelihood that someone's doing something that they shouldn't be doing by adding all these things together. Presumably that's partly what they're doing with Battle Eye and stuff, I imagine. But
let me ask you this. This cat is a little bit of a tangent, but what would be your price? What would you be willing to pay if I was able to go into raid and guarantee what if I was able to guarantee that you would get a found in raid far forward converter and a found in raid vertex for your quest? What would you be willing to pay?
Like rubles?
US dollars, American pesos.
Well, I wouldn't though.
If you, all right,
because like I'd like why would I do that?
All right, fine. I have a gun to your head. Now, how much are you willing to pay?
If I was going to price it, what would that be worth? Probably. Let me think. I'm just trying to like get a bit of an average. Like it's actually probably worth like it depends on what you value your time at. It's probably worth like.
Let's say I could guarantee it in an hour. Let's say.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly worth to somebody who's looking for that as a thing, and they really want to get it, and they don't want to do it normally. I reckon it's almost certainly worth. Let's say. It's probably worth like $100, I would say at least, depending on where you value your time. Like, think how long it's going to like if you go into labs on your own, like how long is that going to take you? And if you don't want to do that, you're saying, well, I could be doing something else. Like, what's my time worth? If I have to run 15 raids or something, like how long is that going to take me? Instead, I could just spend the money in an hour, and then I can go do something else, whatever that might be.
Well, I mean, let's.
I mean, like if you're student, it's worth less, right? If you're been working full time and you've got a decent job, like it's worth a bit more.
Right. Well, let's say instead of I can guarantee it in an hour, let's say I can just guarantee that we'll get it. I don't know how long it's going to take us, but I can just guarantee you're going to get it.
Even then, there's like a time implication of like the spawn rate. So I don't know how many raids it would take. And you can cycle quickly if you know that if you can scan the whole map.
True. Yeah.
So it's probably the same, I would say.
Well, I'll just cut to the punchline. It was that offer was for like $9 USD, I think, $9 USD, which is, pretty substantial. I guess, man, you must really like value your time. Or maybe...
I value my time extremely highly, so that's probably understandable though.
So yeah, I don't know, dude. It's because that was the other thing I didn't really get into. There was one seller that was like pretty much exclusively selling this weird concept of like quest items. Like there was gunsmith completions that he could drop for you. Like he was selling like quest
easy. That's actually really easy as well. Yeah.
And then he would like, you know what I mean? Like you need the far forward converter for a quest, and so that was like bundled with like the vertex, and then there was like a PKM, like you'll go to streets and get one for you. It's like a couple bucks. There's like just a lot of like random.
How do you take that, right? Like you're not even transferring lots of stuff.
That's what I'm saying.
Like the guy goes into raid. Like you could play a bunch of different labs raids with lots of different people. Like if it's vertex, you could go to lighthouse. Like you could mix your raids up. You just go in with another guy. Like so, just make sure you put on like 65 Ulay or something. Like come in with like a very basic gun. Like you're not gonna die, don't worry. And then we just like we go around. You loot the item. He leaves the raid. Like you picks up one or two things. Like that's like it's like how do you detect that carry? Like it's not like they're killing everyone on the map, giving you a tree bag of loot to leave the raid with. Like it's so different. The guy goes into raid as a duo. Oh, he plays with lots of different people. Okay, like what's suspicious about that? Nothing really. Like does he do like ordinarily in raids? And the thing is like the only thing that I would say about that is that if you are smart and if you are sophisticated with your statistical analysis on this stuff, these things do come out, right? There's like the way that different players play, there's like a range in which people play and different players play different styles. And these people are going to stick out somewhere. It's like it's not even, you pass some guy's stat screen through a filter of experienced players. Don't even necessarily need a computer for that. They all spotted that the healing thing was like super off.
Right.
If you pass that to like a statistical engine,
right,
that's done in the right way, like it's going to spot patterns that people aren't even going to spot, right? Or it's going to say like these things just don't add up. There's 99.9% chance that he's going to be cheating. It's like the Veritas. I don't know. Probably heard it at some point. Veritas talking about like cheating in chess, and there's like chess.com has like there's like a whole bunch of like anti-cheating chess kind of thing, which is all about like the statistical probability of somebody like playing certain moves. That's like the same way. Like you can't ever really prove that somebody's cheating. Because in chess, you could just have a separate chessboard up, right? You can play your opponent's moves into a computer, and then you can play that computer's moves back at them, But there's like there's ways that people play at different ELOs, which if they suddenly switch mid-game and they're suddenly making the optimal choice every single time and stuff, it's like really blatant. So like there are parallels. There must be parallels over with EFT. Again, who knows whether they're implementing this stuff or not? I don't know, but there will be ways to do it, which. For some of these like unobvious things, it's like how many players go in as a duo, they go with other people, they like get the kills, they go in with somebody underleveled every time, like they always pick up an item, they never do, like stuff like this.
Right.
Like, there must be ways of doing it. It's just being sophisticated about it. But
yeah, no, I agree. I just think it was just kind of funny to see this seller in particular selling like random like quests turns ins, you know what I mean? It was like
it's progression though, right? They're selling progression. Yeah. Ultimately.
But it was like there were so many variations of it, because like the most popular ones were like carry. Like I'll bring in the raid backpack with the 4 rigs and I'll clear the map out and loot for you. And you'll have, you don't really know what you're getting, but you're going to get all the good stuff is what they're selling. And, it's like $10-ish or something, but those were the most popular because it makes sense because they're kind of like the most applicable. Because like not everyone needs a founder raid far forward converter, so it's kind of like a really niche thing. And I guess my point is like I'm less worried about someone like that because like I could do that business myself and not have to cheat. You know what I mean? Like anybody could kind of do that. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna help you do your quests. like a Sherpa could do it and just charge them like, subscribe now to my Twitch and I'll do this quest for you. Wink, wink. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Yeah.
So I don't really know where that leaves me with the whole thing, but I do feel some peace of mind in that it seems like there's a lot of offers, but I don't know if there's actually a lot of transactions actually happening. Was kind of my thoughts about it.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, well, I've eaten up plenty of time with that, so what do you want to do from here?
I'll talk a little bit about I nearly said RMT then, slip of the tongue. We'll talk about M995 a bit.
Okay.
So I've been using the AK-101 recently. I went back to labs and I've been using talking about GPSA and MCC. I went back to labs and I went back to my tried and tested AK-101 build, which I like and did the video about, which is pretty cool. And it's it's nice and cheap, but it fires like good stuff. Now I was like mulling over previously in like the last wipe where towards the end game I was basically crafting 3 types of ammo. I was crafting BP, M905, and M61. And it kind of occurred to me, this wipe, I was like, what am I going to use into the late game? It's just like, okay, I'm not level 45, so I can't get BP. I'm not going to complete Shoot of One in Heaven anytime soon, apparently, as Tuesday's stream can testify to. So M905 is basically the only like meta round left that I'm actually able to access. Like I have some BP. I have been using BP a little bit from like here and there with my RDs. But once the BP's gone, that's it. It's gone. I'm not getting it at the rate I'm using it. That's for sure when I'm using those guns. Even though I'm stacking it with like PP, which is relatively decent, it has made it go further. But because it's now locked behind level 45 and the Quest Intimidator, you can't get access to it. So I'm just like, really, if I want to get through class 5 easily, I have to either use M995, which is really the only staple gun. Like this wipe is very much the wipe of 5.56, I feel, in many ways. 6A1 is at level 2. 5.5A1 is at level 3. Workbench 3, then you can make M905, which is the only one that goes into all these other decent weapons. It's like, what else am I going to use at that point? Like you can branch out into some other like weird ammo types. Like you can use M80, M62 if you want in 7.62x51. But like that's, against it's not too like M62 is not terrible against class 5, but like M995 goes straight through. It's like I wonder if it's arguably about the same. Like I had one moment which is kind of weird. I actually died to a guy using M995 exclusively in a magazine, and he just like shredded me through this like I'm not sure what it was, even some like heater unit or something. Unfortunately, he managed to hit me in the head. But on the post raid screen, I thought he was using like AP 6.3 or something, just as like a meme. And I was like, oh, it's M905 because he hit me like once in the leg, twice in the arm, once in the stomach, like one in my chest that got absorbed, then like again in my stomach, like more like, and we took 10 shots. The 10th shot was the hit to the head and killed me. But before then, I was just getting like just like pling, 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 just damage all over my body. And I was like, this guy must be using something like really low damage, which is true because M905 isn't very much. But if you don't hit them in the thorax or the head, it's not very good now, especially with the changes to the black limbs, the flesh stuff. So if you're dealing low damage like you are with M905, it does make it kind of hard. I think it's 42 damage, which is really not a lot if you're hitting people in the arm and you're getting what is it now? You only pass through 49% of the damage. Like you're hitting for like 21.
Oof.
It's not good when someone's got a health pool of like 440. So yeah, I don't know. It's intriguing because like 855A1 is good, but against somebody with class 5 on, it's like a little bit lackluster, especially the really good stuff. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. Like it's kind of interesting how I feel like this wipe's just devolved into mainly 5.56. But like, yeah, I mean, you could argue that the high damage from the others is still fine. And like people are mentioning in chat, there's some other ammos like CBJ, which is good, which is kind of like a high damage 5.5A1. But again, it's still not amazing against class 5. There's just not that much like class 5 busting ammo around now, really. There's like niche stuff like Ash 12 and things, but even like SP6, I think you have to. I think SP6 is locked behind some stupid quest, so that's like kind of annoying to get to. It's quite interesting. I was sort of quite quietly surprised. Obviously the large exception to this being 7.62x54, where I mean BT's sold out all the time, and you can craft
really?
SMB. Yeah,
that's great.
It's just constantly sold out. You just can't buy that. It's just like unless you're there at the reset. And same with
so funny.
like MP7 FMJ, which I'm still. I mean, it's the best SMG, I think, arguably. But yeah, like everything else, it's and I think that might be one of the reasons why AVT slash SVT is like now becoming super powered, because as I argued previously, you could deal with class 4 in many ways. LPS was just one of them. Dealing with class 5 is a bit of a pain, you know? Whereas if you can get SMB, and SMB you can find on the map. If you can get SMB or a bit of BS or BT or whatever and load it into an SVT AVT, you just clean through class 5 like no problem. And it's difficult to get that performance elsewhere. Yeah, like M62 is only 44 pen. Like I had the situation with like we ran 995 the whole time, and I got kind of bored, and I was like, let's just use an MP7 finally. And I came up against a Redoute guy, obviously not in the basement area, but the bit down by some of the lifts. And I think I had a 12 hit count, and then got shot in the head and died. And I was like, no! Like we ran 995 the whole freaking like stream. And we did get some kills. And like the one moment I start running FMJ, I just like hit the Redoute guy who's just got like infinite HP, basically. Like it was so brutal. So brutal. I'm actually just going to run the calculation because I didn't do it after. I was too enraged. Yeah, so it's like if you hit all of them to the thorax, it's like a third. So it's like it's either shot 6, 7, or 8. It's kind of like a third, very roughly. But you have to hit them all into the thorax, right? So not including any misses, any arm shots, like whatever. So I hit 12 shots, and it's not surprising that the guy didn't die. Whereas M905 against the Redoute, no surprise there. It kills them in 3 hits.
This is 55A1?
No, this is 905.
For the 12 hits.
No, that was FMJ, the MP7.
Oh, okay, got you. Yeah. I'm with
yeah, because I was like, let's just run the best SMG.
Yeah, that's rough.
And then I like ran into the Redoute man and was just like, God damn it. I just needed to hit him in the head, basically. But with the MP7, it's actually not that easy. You'd kind of almost rather have like a P90 with L191 against the Redoute guy, because like at least the recoil is low and you can hit him in the face. Whereas the MP7 is like, it's a bit wild.
It is a bit wild.
The recoil's not like, it's not crazy, but it's not that great either.
Yeah, No, I know what you mean.
Whereas 995, because it's got 42 damage, it never 3 shots, even if they're unarmored, because you only hit 84. So it's always a 3 hit. But it's a 3 hit through the Redoute as well. 55A1, let's see, M855A1, let's see what that comes out at. Yeah, so 55A1 is most of, like half of the time, it's a 4 shot. And the rest of the time, it's basically like 5 of the 6 shot. So again, it's a lot. It's quite a lot.
Yeah.
CBJ is probably similar. It's got a bit of a better distribution. It's like a quarter of the time you'll 3 hit them to the chest. A quarter of the time you'll 4 hit them, and 50% of the time you 5 hit them. That's because it's got quite good. It's got quite good damage. So that's probably why that's like that. And then 762 PP is like 50% of the time a 5 hit. Just like class 5 is just really good. I think class 5 is really good this way, except for if you're against the SVT and AVT. This is the issue.
With the exception of the best gun in the game, though.
Yeah, it's true though. It's true. I mean, even if you take, let's say, let's just look at LPS. So LPS is like a 63% chance to 3 hit a Redoute. LPS, dude.
Yeah.
LPS. It's simply because of its armor damage and its pen.
Yeah.
The armor damage on LPS is 78%, extremely high. If you take 762 PS, which I think you can buy sometimes now, that's like a 76. That's actually really consistent. That's a 76% chance to 3 shot someone with a Redoute on, and 1 in 5 times you 2 hit them. Because you get the 2 lucky pen rolls. Like the pen chance is 40% and then 50%, basically. So if you get the 2 lucky pen rolls, they just die. Even with class 5. And this is crazy. This is why. Like we've restricted even more ammos and added the SVT and AVT. That's the reason we're seeing it more so now. Even more so now. And I said this like ages ago. Like the SVT and AVT just hasn't changed. You just set the ammo up and the time to kill is the same. Like other guns, you have to invest more money. You have to do crafting of M905. You have to buy this, that, and the other. You have to find the AP for I can't believe they took the MCX AP round out of the game, basically. I say out of the game, or everyone always jumps on me when I say out of the game. They took it out of the traders and crafting, so you have to
Which is
find it in
effectively out
raid
of the
only.
game, right?
It's a unicorn round now.
Yeah,
right? It's 7N40 level / 338 Lapua Magnum AP level.
Yeah.
So the MCX is kind of gone for the late game because that would have been quite a good bullet.
Yeah, especially considering all the buffs they did to it.
Yeah, 300 AP. Yes, that would also be a 3-hit against the Redoute, like 995. You see, so that would have been a good alternative, but that's gone. So all you can get is the one that's like, sort of average of like a 4-hit, I think. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it's interesting. I've been looking for some other alternatives, but I think that then highlighted to me just why people are using this so much, because it's rough. Oh, the other one I wanted to do was M62. I wanted to check M62, actually. It's like 762. Yeah, so it's okay. I mean, that's a 3-shot, that's a 3-shot 75% of the time. And occasionally a 2-hit and occasionally a 4-hit. The problem here, though, right? And this is my feeling about it. The difference between M905 or something like CBJ or 855A1 even versus M62 is very different. A 3-hit with M905 is very different to a 3-shot with M62, right? Because like the gun that you're going to put it in,
Right.
It's low recoil, but it's semi-auto. You can't just like spray the guy.
Right.
Like the base gun costs more than the AK-101 with all of its mods.
Yeah.
It's just a different value proposition, and it's for different things. You very rarely see people running non-fully automatic weapons in labs, for example, which is where I took my weapon. Like it's good, like the rest of the time for like general gameplay, but for those kind of like more sort of CQB, like high octane type maps, the rounds that you can full auto and get a 3-hit 3+5 are just going to be better, right? In my opinion. So it's just like, what's the viability of some of these other things? I've not tried the Ash 12 this wipe, but no, M62 is all right. BP is hidden. AP is gone. And 995 is craftable. Igolnik BS got its own problems, I suppose.
Yeah, dude, VS and it's just the flesh is so low. It's awful.
Like 40 flesh for BS and 37 for Golnik. Like, the pen is good, 52 and 62. Oh, that's good. But the flesh is even lower. The RPM is even lower. Like, it's the same as the AK-101, but you can pump up 995's damage, like DPS, by putting it in an M4. 800 versus 650 RPM. Like, it's just better. Like, what are the other alternatives? Like APM, sort of. It's like so limited in terms of guns. VSS, PAB9, you can craft that. You can barter for BP. In theory, it's boxes of 8. So it's kind of annoying. You have to complete test drive, though. You can craft PAB9. PAB9's not bad. 62 damage and 48 pen. That's actually pretty good.
Yeah, but it's the VSS, Giga.
I know. So again, it's the VSS. You can't really do anything about the gun. Like APSX, you could put in the MP7, but that's got its own problems because it's the lowest damage bullet in the whole game with 35, so it doesn't even headshot anybody, even if they're not wearing a helmet, because PSG refuses to remove 5 HP from the head. And then you're down into the SMGs, which just, like, none of these other guns have a bullet above 40 pen.
Yeah.
So, like, I almost feel like, I don't know, the viability of some of this, like, late game stuff has been just minimized down to, it's the SVT, or you're using M995.
Yeah, I mean, how would you?
To me.
Yeah, I mean, and you're not entirely wrong. I mean, there is M61, but you can only get so much of it, right? For crafting.
M61.
And you have to do the quest.
You have to do shoot spawn in heaven.
I know.
Oh,
I know.
Oh,
but I'm sorry. I shouldn't have brought it up. I It's I'm traumatized. He's traumatized.
Bolt actions.
I know. But the point is, I just feel like it's kind of a problem when you have high flesh damage and high armor pen, because it's just like it's compounding effectiveness. You know what I mean? It's like obvious when I pick a flesh damage round, like rip ammo, that I'm taking a trade off, right? It's obvious when I pick a Golnik that I'm taking a trade off. I get less flesh damage, but I get more armor pen. But when I just get like the scaling on like these big caliber rounds, just like you lose a little bit of damage, but you gain a whole armor class of pen. It's like it just like keeps getting better and better. And at the bottom or like the middle of the pack, like LPS or M80, they're just like really good. It's like, and I just feel like they need to make the SMGs more viable, because again, we're trading not only damage. Like if you want the high pen SMG rounds, you trade damage, and that's the highest you can go. So like make them low recoil, so they're actually like I can actually hit shots well. They don't have to be accurate. You can keep the accuracy the same, but just make them low recoil. So like they're, because as you said, the MP7, I just find like the recoil's too high to where it's like you get the same effectiveness as using like a mutant. So like it's like it shoots slower, but it does more damage and pins faster. So the TTK is basically better or the same as the MP7. Like I don't know. It just
exactly, like the only argument for the SMGs is like, oh, the RPM is so high, you get more chances at shooting them in the head.
That's fair. Yeah,
that's the only real argument. Yeah, you get more rolls for shooting in the head. It's all RNG anyway. So like that's why the P90 is good. It's got 50 rolls, and the ammo is complete garbage, but no one wears a face shield, so you just get 50 rolls at shooting them in the face. And if you don't shoot them in the face, you lose.
Yeah, and with guns like the M1A, the SR25, I mean, I understand, there is some gating behind the really, really good stuff, and M80 is not cheap or that accessible, but I mean, they have relatively low recoil, and the SVD is just kind of, the SVT is just kind of like, it just feels like you're trading you're getting a lot of, let me say this, you're getting a lot of value for what you're spending. That's really where the strength in that gun lies.
Hot take on the SVT. Delete the AVT mag. 10 rounds max.
Really? I will see. I wonder if maybe, I don't know if this is realistic, but what if only the 15 rounds could go in the AVT?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe. I mean, it's probably not realistic, so they wouldn't want to do it, but
yeah. This is one more thing I'll say is like with the it's AVT versus FVT. It's so weird because it's like you're doubling your time to kill, right? So like the SVT versus AVT, they're basically the same price. If anything, the AVT is cheaper.
Yeah, which is insane, but yeah.
Right, which should change, by the way. Let's make that clear. But you're basically doubling your rate of fire, right? You're going for like 450 to like, is it 800 or 900? It's something stupid.
I think it was 750 off the top of my head, but I'm going to look it up.
It's the highest of that caliber.
It's 750, yeah.
It's more than the SA-58. 50 more, not by much. So you're almost doubling your rate of fire, right? In exchange, what do you lose? Well, you lose the ability to put on the scope. Effectively, they have the exact same stats, like internally and otherwise. So it just feels really weird that it's like that. You know what I mean? Like imagine, I'm trying to think, take the TX-15 versus the M4, right? You trade half your TTK for better recoil, and maybe, I don't think you get better accuracy, but you get better ergo. So you get a little bit of lower recoil, both stat wise and hidden. The hidden's not by much, if I recall. But anyways, you get something, right? And like we would say that like, oh yeah, you're effectively trading TTK for a play style. Like now you have to play around this limitation of its single fire, but you get these minor bonuses to compensate. I don't think the bonuses are enough, but anyways, that's another story. My point is like, it just feels like the SCTs just and AVT are just like really like out there. Like it's so weird how you just like, for the cost of practically nothing, for the cost of a shitty PU scope, you get double your TTK. Like, why would you never not do that? Like, why not just run them both? They're so cheap. There's just gotta be something there they can do to make that, like, we gotta put the realism. I don't care if every Privet in Russia has a SVT in their closet. There's gotta be something there to the wiggle room there, man.
Yeah. Oh, I don't even honestly. I don't even know. I don't even know. Well, I think we've hit an extremely difficult weapon to balance. Outside of just like making it just useless.
You could,
you know what I mean?
I wouldn't. Yeah, I would say like accessibility would be like a good starting point, in my opinion. Like if you made the SVT way less accessible, like let's say it's whether you increase the price or lower the availability, whatever. But just doing that alone would probably like help a bit. So that way, it's like obviously it's still really good, but now you have to pay more for it, or you can't get it as often. Like something there, you know what I mean? Like there's got to be something.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't really know. The thing is, like, I feel that the SVT itself isn't actually too like the SVT is not too bad because it is semi-auto.
No, it's pretty good.
I think the AVT is like kind of more broken in some ways because it's like even more hyper specialized, like you said.
Yeah.
But it's like even better at the thing that it does really well. Whereas like with the SVT, like it's it's a semi-auto gun at the end of the day. So like yeah, it's good, but it's not a hold down the trigger and just like go.
You have to play around a different limitation, which is arguably the worst limitations. Like, would you rather have the capability to TTK to double your time to kill up close, or would you rather have single fire? It's like the M4 versus the TX all over again, right? No one uses the TX because the trade-offs aren't even like remotely in the same ballpark. You would have to get like, I don't even know if like zero recoil would even if you had zero recoil, you're still like half your TTK. So I don't know. Maybe then you could have like an actual, discussion about, oh, well, the advantage here is like now I have a laser beam at 400 RPM at any distance I want, but up close it's worse than the M4 because it's got a little bit of recoil, but now it has 800 RPM. Maybe then, but with SVT, there's just like nothing there. It's just literally it just gets better. You can still single fire with it. It just gets better. Oh, I'm sorry. You can't put a scope on it. Sorry, my bad. You can't put a shitty 2.5 optic on it.
Yeah,
my bad.
Exactly. Which is why I do still think the SVT is probably all right, kind of.
Right.
Whereas the AVT is crazy. Like the time that I've used the AVT, and I haven't used it for a while. Like you can do the classic Tarkov thing of like just pull down, bro. So you just do you pull down in the first 3 shots, and then you're just gunning for the next 12 bullets or something. You're just absolutely ripping into whoever it is that you're facing, and like it's only 15, and like it's 750 RPM. So you have to. It's kind of situational, but it costs a teapot, so it's kind of whatever.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. I
I
can see why.
I killed together with it. Like my only together kill this white was with the AVT. Really? Yeah, with LPS against class 6.
I mean, I imagine you're probably not alone in that camp.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really good.
That's why all the killer farmers are doing it, right? It's like it's just a min max.
Oh yeah,
special.
Of course.
And SVT, to be fair, with killer. But against a real player, you want to have full auto, really.
You want to have that higher roll percentage.
Yeah. So I always feel like the SVT is like maybe okay, like kind of, because you do take a lot of downsides. But with the AVT, there's just something fundamentally different, as you say, about like semi versus. It's an interesting thing. It's like a complete separate thing. Just if you would decrease like the TX's recoil by like 50% or something, it would be an interesting one.
Yeah, because then it's like, I mean, it's similar to like the SMG argument. It's like you're losing damage and pen, for rate, a little bit more rate of fire, not TTK, but a little bit more rate of fire, and like a little bit less recoil. It just feels like the gaps, the trade-offs are a bit skewed that don't really make sense.
I think like the AVT is almost even just like as well, just buffed too because of the way that like point fire works in Tarkov as well. So you don't really even need 2 ADS. Like so having the scope doesn't even matter.
Right.
Oh, I don't know, man. There's so much to it. It's hard. And then there's very few alternatives now.
And
so
I could
the whole
see
thing is tricky.
I could see the logic in your suggestion. Just lower the limit to just delete the 15-round mags, because then it's like,
I'll make it fine in raid or something. Like just you can find the mag, but it's just fine in raid only.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like it's completely cracked, so you should make it fine in raid only. Don't put it on Prapple 3 or whatever stupid place it is.
Yeah, there's got to be. I mean, I'm sure they'll get
10
around
rounds
to
in a
it.
full auto is like different. That's hard, you know.
Yeah,
One of the reasons why the Vep Hunter kind of sucks, but everyone just uses the 15 rounder in the SVT or the AVT, and that's one of the reasons why it ends up being like usable.
yeah. I mean, theoretically, you know, you only need 2 hits to land. You know, if you use the right ammo to kill them in the thorax. So for 10 rounds,
I mean,
it's 5
sure,
kills.
but like there's a reason why all the top players use 60 rounders rather than 30s on an M4.
Of course, yeah, more is better.
Yeah.
Again, the
It
trade-offs
gets better.
Again, trade-offs, Giga. You know, if you can compensate for that ergo, or if you just don't ADS, then who cares about ergo, right?
Yeah.
It's
some people saying like switch the hidden stats. Like it's probably not a terrible idea.
That's honestly, it honestly surprised me they didn't have any different hidden stats. They have the exact same. Yeah. That was really surprising to me. And because that's usually not the case. Historically, they don't do that. Okay.
It's better than the SVD, better than the M1A. It's basically in line with the G28. That should just be really low. It shouldn't be middle of the pack. It should be worse than the SVD, right? There's no way that the hidden stats on the SVT and the AVT should be better than the SVD and the M1A at stock. There's just no way. Why? Like, why the hell is that the case?
I don't know. I can't really provide any rhyme or reason.
Doesn't make sense. And the camera recall is so different. Again, like this is one of the issues though. It's like I kind of don't want them to do it because it's just like, oh, we'll balance it by making it feel bad like every other gun.
Right. Exactly.
Rather than just like, how about let's buff all the other guns so that they all feel good?
Yeah.
Let's. I don't know, man.
Let's just cope for the recoil rework. Okay, let's just cope.
Oh god. Yeah.
So, was there anything else you want to say? Because I want to wrap it up here quickly. So I just got one quick last thing I want to say. Someone in your Discord, Giga, pinged you and I about some.
I saw this
Tarkov debate. I'll just briefly. We won't get into it too much, but it's basically a community-driven Tarkov mod that has server support using Magic the Gathering backend servers, which I'm just like, what the heck is that? And it's supposed to be like this like competitive Tarkov, bring back the 11.6 days, whatever the labs wipe mains patch was. And it's kind of funny
on a meta HK, all of that.
Yeah, it's really funny. I looked at it, it's just kind of funny watching, but it's definitely a very one of the things that BSG is very against. Like there's kind of this weird. My understanding is they're kind of like tentatively okay with single player Tarkov, but once you start getting into multiplayer territory, that's where they really start taking an issue.
Right.
So this kind of like brand does that, and it's I don't know. There's like it's just weird. There's so much I could say about it. I'll maybe save it for another time.
It sort of looked a bit interesting, but like unless it's got progression and things in it, then people won't want to play it, right? Like it's just going to be a small subset of labs Chad people who want to play, but like without the progression and it being connected to the main game, I'm just not sure if it's really got the same like vibe.
Yeah, I mean, for them, I could totally see why they would want to play that, and I don't think I would be particularly interested in playing it. I mean, maybe just to relive the old days, but
But like, did we really enjoy the old days that much on labs? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I still maintain that inertia is like the concept is a good thing, but like just the old movement was just so broken, dude. It was like even more coin flippy than before, because you could just there's a video about this on somewhere I was watching about like tracking. Like it's just impossible to like predict tracking. I think it was about like aim assist, but it's just like impossible to predict tracking when there's like an instant change in direction, because you have to like see that change and you have to react to it. Whereas like a much more gradual change in direction that gives you that buffer time to actually like track it. And then if the buffer times can't overlap, it just makes for a much better like experience. Whereas like the old ways, there was no buffer, and it was literally like the strat was to spam A and D, and like you can mix it up a bit to throw them off, but it was so coin flippy, it's just not good. And I think how it is now is like bad, but conceptually, I think it's the right idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the classic thing of acceleration, right? It's like if you can track the acceleration of the person, then you can predict where they're going to go. But if it's instantaneous, then you simply cannot. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll probably talk about next week once I actually dabbled into some more single player stuff. But
cool.
For now,
yeah, I guess like just like a quick couple of minutes before we end. I've been playing a bit of Warhammer 40,000 Darktide off stream with a couple of mates. You know, I have my friends group who we often play Dota or whatever, but right now I'm definitely on like a Dota hiatus, just simply because like when can I play? Like I'm busy in the day, so I can't play then. If I try to play at night, like so we're having, our youngest is having some like issues sleeping and stuff, so I need to help my wife at like short notice randomly, and like Dota just isn't compatible with that, right? It's just not the way. To be fair, like there's no real penalty for leaving some of these other games. Like Darktide takes a certain amount of time, like 20 minutes or half an hour for a game or whatever, but you don't. It's not competitive in the same way. So you don't lose anything really, other than like screwing your team. But I'm with all 3 friends who understand the situation, so it doesn't matter. But I'm actually having surprisingly, I don't really know what I expected. Let's put it that way. Like I'm a 40k fan in general. I used to collect as a teenager. I actually ended up selling my entire collection to a friend who was like still an avid like tabletop gamer actually. But I sold all of my stuff to him when I was about 17, because I was just playing a lot more PC games and not really that interested in doing tabletop. It was like too slow paced for me. I just didn't really want to do it anymore. I wasn't really interested in the painting side. I was interested in the rules and the game, as opposed to like any of the hobbycraft stuff. And so I was like, I'm not sure why I'm playing this now. So I'm like, I like the Warhammer universe and that kind of thing, but I'm not an active participant in it. So when the guys were like, "Oh, you should get Darktide," I was kind of like, "What is it?" And my friend described it to me as like Left 4 Dead combined with Borderlands. Which I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. And we used to play a lot of Left 4 Dead, actually. We played like a ton. More so the first one. We did play a bit of Left 4 Dead 2, but Left 4 Dead, the first game, we played so much. It was our game. Actually, this is like kind of a funny story. We actually had Left 4 Dead like ruined for us because we saw it played competitively at one of the LANs that we went to. And like, it's one of those games where, so some games flourish in a competitive scene. There's lots of stuff you could do. In our opinion, at least, as non-pros, Left 4 Dead is a game that gets just like dissolved down to like the lowest common denominator, and you basically just crawl around the map as a team of 4, and it's just like the end game is just like it solves at like a very specific point that's just like not fun. And once we'd seen it, we were just like, oh man, I'm not sure if we can ever get back from this. It's terrible. So, but anyway, like Left 4 Dead and Darktide, for that matter, for those who haven't played, is basically you play as a team of 4, and you have to go from, there's like different things you have to do, but you basically go from one place to another place, and there's like hordes of enemies you have to defeat, and there's different tiers of enemies. There's like sort of specialist ones, like mini, like sort of boss type ones, as you go through it, like harder or whatever. If somebody gets knocked down, you can get them back up again, but you can only get picked back up so many times. And it's kind of like team orientated. Now, the only unfortunate thing about Darktide is that you can't play as the enemy team. You could in Left 4 Dead, which was actually really fun. So you spawned in as like some of the specialist characters on in Left 4 Dead, trying to play against the survivors. You can't do that in Darktide, which is slightly unfortunate. But even still, I'm actually having a lot of fun with it, because it seems to me like when I played, so I talked about like Diablo 4 that I played relatively recently, was quite disappointed by, and I think it was because it's almost like come full circle, right? Like Path of Exile was influenced by Diablo in the first place, but built upon it. Path of Exile is kind of like taken on a mind of its, or sort of life of its own, and become like a very like hyper competitive ARPG. So that's sort of become like the meta of like ARPGs. Diablo's kind of like then jumped on the back of that, and they've also kind of done the same thing with like their skill trees and paragon points and all this stuff. Like it gets completely crazy. But for me, like I remember like Diablo 2 and the simplicity of that. And like, yeah, there was kooky stuff you could do in there. But like the basic skill trees, there was flaws with the game, sure. But the basic skill trees were like they were pretty obvious. They weren't really that complicated. And I didn't really like play D2 to like sweat the game in like an insane way, like not until like the end game. And the same thing is going to be with Darktide for me. Now, I found like D4 was just like as someone who wants to play D4 casually, the skill tree for me is just like, it's way too much. And I like looking into this stuff normally, but it's just way too much. And there's too many mechanics and it's so confusing as to what you do. And I've actually heard like, Veritas talking about this, where some certain mechanics end up being really important just because of the way the maths works. It's very mathematical and all calculations and things. And that's fine if you want to like turbo sweat it, but I don't want to turbo sweat those games. And so Darktide for me is that perfect balance of like ARPG skill trees, because it does have a skill tree and a leveling system. You go from level 1 to 30 and you take a different path down for your character. You can respec whenever you want for free. So you can have lots of different builds and try different stuff out. And but it's not so complicated that like I'm looking at it just being like, I can't even make sense of like what I'm supposed to do here, right? Like I can see you have like some different interesting builds that obviously synergize together. And then you've got like your weapons as well that you can pick. So you've got a different melee weapon, ranged weapon, and like a special like stat item or something. And so these things like combine together like in interesting ways so that you're trying to cover all bases. You've got like the close range, like against waves of mobs. You're basically trying to solve the classic like almost ARPG type problem. Like if I get hoarded by like a wave of like low health enemies, but there's like 100 of them, how do I kill them? If I come up against an individual single target that's gonna, that has tons of health, like how do I kill that? It's that kind of thing, and like trying to get the balance right between not taking all wave clear, but then you can't defeat the boss, versus being able to kill the boss, but the wave comes and kills you. So it's intriguing. So it's got that to it. Plus, it's got the whole like Borderlands-y sort of like other tiered loot system of like white, blue, green, orange, with different like the ARPG thing of like the different roles within each stat. So there's like different roles. You can go to the merchant and upgrade different parts. So the end game is there, but you don't necessarily need to engage with that like right away. And it just feels quite nicely balanced. Like you can play the game just fine without feeling like you have to like min-max everything. But then obviously at the top level of play, you're then going to have to like start getting the good weapons, rolling them up to the highest like, getting good rolls on them and that kind of thing. So it's like got a really cool selection of mechanics that I wasn't expecting it to have. And it's actually really enjoyable. It's like one of the first games I've had in quite a while, especially multiplayer, that I thought like, oh, I can't wait till this evening to like play. Like BattleBit, I had that somewhat. But I actually feel like more like this and I really enjoyed BattleBit, and I still play it from time to time, but I actually feel more like this with Darktide. I think it's because the progression system is like stronger. It's got that kind of dopamine of like going up the levels. Yeah, like you get skill points, and you're looking to see what's next. Whereas on BattleBit, I feel like I'm waiting till I get to level 70 so I can lock this other gun that's balanced to perfection and is kind of the same as all the others. Like I'm not going to suddenly perform way better with the Scar H, for example, than I was with the AK-12 that I had previously. It's like it's different, but it's not any better. Whereas in this, it's like I'm going up the levels and I'm getting more skill points, so my builds can get more complicated, like piece by piece, and it builds up. Like at the beginning, you only have 3, so you can have to pick, and then you're reading like what's next. And you slowly build it up piece by piece by piece until you're making like relatively complicated builds and sort of figuring out on your own. So it feels like really organic in that way to like just progress, and it feels great, right? It feels really good to do. So I'm having a lot more fun with it than I thought I would, and it's cool. I think so. It's been out for a while, and I think the reason why people have come back to it now is there was a big balance update. I think like I have a couple of friends who played it when it first came out, and they said that it was quite lackluster. Some stuff was like quite unbalanced. I think there were some bugs and things, but they've done a big overhaul of the whole game, and it's like a lot of the things do seem pretty well balanced now. It's there's like big downsides to taking the super powerful weapons. It's like if you take the bolt gun, and most things just explode in one hit. But the reload is huge on it, and it doesn't have that much ammo. So you like end up running out of ammo all the time. You're like trying to find ammo constantly for it. And I think it's got like mobility penalties and stuff too. So there's downsides to everything. So that's what I like in games. What we always talk about in these things. It's like there's got to be pros and cons to everything.
You mean
like
there's not an AVT?
Problems. No, exactly, exactly. So there's like got to be ways to solve the issues. Like we were having problems as a group with ranged units at distance.
Mm-hmm.
Even the ranged abilities that I had, because I'm playing the Psyker. Even the ranged abilities I had are not very accurate, and so it was actually really hard to pick them off. And most of the other guys are like short to medium range. So I ended up like picking up this las gun, which is really high damage and is like it's like a DMR basically in the Warhammer universe. And so I've got that now. So when there's like a sniper at distance, I can just like headshot them from like miles away, which is great. So that covers that other base that we were struggling with as a team. So it's really good. It's really good, and it's got that sort of almost like MOBA element to it as well, because there's like 4 of you. there's 4 different classes. We're playing one of as each class just to kind of like role play it and just see a bit of each thing. But you could do like 2 of one and 2 individual. You could have like 2 of the same class. Like it doesn't mean you could have all 4 of the same class if you want. So it's like there's like a team composition element to it as well, like synergies between the different characters. So it's like it's like Left 4 Dead with like synergies too. There's so much to it that I'm actually kind of enjoying it. It's like one of the first games I've come across recently where I'm like, I can almost feel myself wanting to make a video about it.
Oh,
which is very interesting.
Now
like
we know it's really doing something.
I went into the test environment because there's a test environment there with every enemy type, and I was like,
that's cool.
I was just like trying to like figure stuff out, and I was like shooting this one guy in the head. I was like, that's like this super armored guy, so he's got this crazy armor in his head. But I realized, and I didn't appreciate this at first, that different mobs and different enemies have different pieces of armor on different parts of their body, and some of them. Like there is actually like you have to sort of identify in the moment like what type of armor they have and what weapon you have and what it's good against, because the different weapons are good against different types of armor. So if the guy's got the helmet on his head, you can actually shoot him in the body and he's only wearing flak on his body, so you end up killing him quicker than shooting him in the head, for example. So there's like carapace armor, flak armor, unarmored, and the different mobs have like different health. And it's like it's actually really complicated. I was like, okay, I can see myself getting lost in this. And like all the weapons have different stats and perks and abilities and whatever, but like as I said, it doesn't feel overwhelming, and the gameplay is actually pretty fun. Like even though it feels like Diablo 4 in some ways, like lots of waves of like PvE with specialist enemies and sort of mini bosses. But Diablo 4 felt like really boring play for me, whereas this feels like so good. And sometimes it gets incredibly frenetic. There's like stuff all around you. You're just like trying to hack them away. That's why it kind of feels a bit like Left 4 Dead to play. Because you just get swarmed. The whole idea of the campaign is like you're the forces of the Imperium versus the Nurgle faction of Chaos. So there's like plagued people. It's like they're almost zombie-like, right? It's like it's so close to Left 4 Dead in many ways. And then the 40k like world and universe is really cool. It's like dark gothic, which is amazing, and the environments are amazing. The shit that you start on is like crazy, and the soundtrack's really good too. And there's like when shit goes down, the soundtrack starts pumping, and you're like gunning. It's like it's really really cool. So I'm actually having a blast with Darktide. I think it's really awesome. I haven't found too many big problems with it as of yet. One main issue that I find is that like shooting is just a bit weird. Very interestingly, it has a very similar recoil system to Tarkov on the full auto guns. The guns raise up and then they stay at the same place. I was like, I've seen this before.
Do they come back down?
No.
They just stay in the...
No, they do once you let go of shooting, yeah.
Okay.
So it's basically the same system that we have.
It's a little bit different.
We've got like character auto control. No, it is maybe I've not described it the same way, but it's basically the same recoil system we have. So you fire, it goes up, and then it stays. Does the
character control it? Like does he actually bring it back down?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, no, it doesn't drop afterwards. It goes. Okay. It's like the new recoils. Yeah, you're right. It's like the new recoil system. So it goes full auto, goes up to a point, and then stops.
Yeah.
So you basically pull down, and then you just leave it there.
Okay.
But it's not a competitive game in that sense anyway, because it's all PvE. So like it matters a bit less. But I was interested when I was because I never really noticed. I was like, I just suddenly thought to myself like, I wonder what the recoil is like in this game. Because you don't actually do necessarily that much shooting. There is some, but it's like a mixture of all things. And I was like, let me just try it out. And I was like, interesting. But yeah, shooting, the recoil is weird. I find it on some guns it's a little bit glitchy. There was one that I was trying out, and when I fired, it went like up and then back down and up and back down. But if I fired and tried to control it, it would like jerk weirdly. There's something slightly buggy about it, which is a bit weird. In the semi-auto seems fine, but like some of the full auto guns seem a bit like, I don't know. There seemed to be something slightly buggy about it, but like other than that, everything's. Oh yeah, the only other thing about it is that sometimes there's some like input clash between certain things. I'm finding it like occasionally very difficult to get off like a special ability. You have to basically be pressing nothing else. Like if your character's doing anything, it won't go. It doesn't even go off the next possible opportunity. It just doesn't go, which is really irritating. I actually find that quite annoying. So other than that, it's good, I would say. So there's a few minor complaints I have, but like all the progression systems and stuff so far feel pretty good. Like I've not played a ton, but it's captured me for the time being. I will say it's cool. I'm enjoying. Like, would I play it on my own? maybe I might play. Like I'm usually quite off playing with like a team of other people, but I think there is VoIP in the game, but there's no like, what would you say? What's the word for this?
Incentive?
There's sort of an incentive, I guess, but there's no like, the community's they just don't do that. Nobody uses it. Maybe because it wasn't super incentivized. You can also use ping markers to do pretty much everything that you need to say. And probably because it's a much more casual game. So
Yeah.
you don't necessarily take it that seriously.
Right.
And so you just, you don't need to like sweat it over the mic to tell that idiot to get over here and, he's ruining it because he hasn't seen the meta strat on YouTube or whatever.
Right. Which is, some things are very good, a good thing that it's not like that, right?
Yeah.
Who wants to play a casual game and then some guy's like, oh my God, you guys, you're not doing the strat. Follow me. I know the strat. Guys, over here. That's just serious. It's like.
Yeah. I mean, there are obviously like best builds and like things to do, but it almost feels like going back to the ye oldie days of playing, because I haven't watched any YouTube videos. Like, I'm just figuring it out. Like, I always like to do it like that anyway. Like, half the fun is trying to figure this stuff out myself rather than just like try and just find some cookie cutter guide and just like follow that. Like, I never like to do that really. But because it's non-competitive, I'm not playing against other people who are doing that, so it doesn't feel necessary.
Right.
Which is really cool. And so it feels a little bit like going back to the old days of gaming, which is neat. So
That's cool.
we're playing a bit more of that. If it develops a bit more, if there's more stuff to it, I'll have to tell you how the end game goes. I think you can get to level 30. I'm about halfway. I'm about level 14 or something like that. So we'll see. Played like 10 hours so far, and it's cool. I think can see us playing it for quite a bit longer. Like, Dota's just so hard for us all to get together and play these days with all of our time commitments and whatever. Like, this is much easier, just like dip in, play a match, and then jump. And it's not as devastating if there's only 3 of us.
Yeah.
Unlike playing with 2 randoms in Dota 2, heaven forbid. But no, it's cool. It's cool. And actually, one final thing about it: the voice lines between the characters is actually really funny. It's got pretty good dialogue. You do start to hear the same stuff over and over, but it is quite entertaining. So overall, great game so far.
Yeah,
honestly,
sounds like
I'm enjoying it. Yeah, it's like a let off steam kind of game for sure. But it's cool. It's like got all the elements that I'm interested in without being like too sweaty, which is excellent.
Cool. I'm happy for you. You get a side game to play around with until we get some of that sweet Tarkov Arena, right?
Exactly. Soon TM.
Soon
we don't have that
TM.
much time left before the end of the year, so we'll see. I mean, imagine that it'll, now that they're showcasing this tournament tomorrow,
right?
We'll, I guess we'll expect it soon-ish.
Ish.
Yeah. Exactly. We'll see.
Cool. Well, I think that's going to conclude today's episode. As always, thanks everyone for tuning in. Appreciate support. Remember to subscribe on over to YouTube channel if you prefer that platform. And as always, we'll catch you next week.
Catch you later.